Hey everybody, it's JJ. We're back again after a pretty long break for another ASUS PCDIY live stream. Hopefully, as we move forward, we'll be having actually these pretty frequently again. We'll pretty much be looking to probably have them every Friday. But for those of you that are joining us this Friday, happy Friday. Hopefully, everybody's had a positive and productive week. For those of you who don't know, my name is JJ with ASUS, and excited to be able to give you guys the latest and greatest when it comes to what we're going to be doing. It's been a very busy Q3 for us. A lot of different exciting products and a lot of announcements have been we've put out there. So we've got a lot to actually talk about. We'll see how much we can go ahead and pack in for this stream. If not, we'll definitely look to probably follow up next week. And of course, as we continue to move through Q4, let's see who we have joining us here on the stream. Make sure that everything's going through okay in terms of sound checks and everything like that. So we've got the one, the only Sue Min. Happy to have you, man. Thanks for joining us here on the stream, man. Happy Friday. Oh, fantastic. One of the best modders and builders in the game, guys. You got Liquid House here joining us. Fantastic. Great to have them on there. If you guys are not following them on their socials, checking out what they're doing, a great set of individuals over there with John and Ellie. So make sure to go ahead and check them out. We've got Jeff also joining us. Fantastic, man. Thanks for joining us here on the stream. Is this Forsaken PC? Forsaken PC, man. How are you doing, man? Thanks for joining us here. We've got Pasquis also joining us here. And then I'm going to give you a thumbs up just for that unique name that you got right there. 4 Ninja Toads. All right, man. Fantastic. And then, the one, the only, the Canadian master over there with Snef, right? One of my absolute favorite builders and modders in the game. If you guys want to be able to check out fantastic builds, just like we talked about with Liquid House, if you're not following Snef, make sure to do so. It's a treat and always one of the best out there in terms of inspiration, in terms of stuff that he's doing, in terms of his builds. So we've got a lot to unpack here. So first and foremost, I just want to go ahead and touch on two announcements that we have in terms of product availability that actually are a little bit earlier than we thought, especially with everything that's been going on within 2025 and the last quarter. So it's always happy for us to be able to go ahead and talk about things when they come in a little bit earlier than expected. So let me go ahead and touch on the first one quickly. And this is going to be for those of you that are really looking for kind of the premiere in terms kind of an esports gaming display. So we're going to jump into monitors. We're going to jump into a lot of different stuff. I'm going to try to kind of keep it focused into different categories. So I'll try to keep kind of monitors within monitors, motherboards, graphics cards, those things. But we're definitely going to probably be doing some jumping around when it comes along to that. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some displays here. And we're going to go ahead and touch on the RG Strix XG248QSG, the ACE. And so for those of you who are not aware, when we talk about ACE, ACE is the designation for our esports gaming focused product. So this is something that we recently launched around the end of last year in our peripheral line first. And now you've seen it kind of expanded to a few more product categories. It's the first time here that we're kind of formally introducing it within the display side. And that's really because for this display that we want to be able to touch on, let me go ahead and share my screen for you guys so you guys can actually check out this display. This guy is going to be, of course, the really focused for those of you that are going to be in the competitive frame rate. So if you're somebody that's already at a high refresh rate, I'd love to see in the chat, what is the current refresh rate for your monitor that you're using right now? Are you at that 165? Have you jumped up to 240? Maybe you're one of those people that's maybe like 1440p 360. Of course, prior to this, our fastest displays that we had a 480 hertz 1440p display. We of course had the dual mode OLED based models, which offered an FHD toggle at 480. We had the 1440p 480 hertz based display. So we've had quite a number. And then of course the prior flagship 1080p display that we had on the esports segmentation was our ROG Swift 540 hertz. So this now follows up from that 540 to now we have this model here with 610 hertz. Now the really cool things about this one, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail because we've talked about it a little bit, I think, when we had the prior announcement coming out of Computex. But there's some pretty cool things. One is that even though this is using a TN-based panel, you have really, really nice color gamut performance. So historically in the past, a lot of times for TNs, you would have a weaker level in terms of color reproduction. So you can see right here, in terms of 90% DCI-P3, that means you're going to have still a really nice color experience. I would say minus the advantage that IPS has when it comes to kind of viewing angles, which here you're not really having to worry about kind of having to have a wide degree of viewing angles. You're still going to have a really nice experience in that regard. And there's still factory calibration. I also really love here, this model actually has our brand new updated ID design for the actual base. So I don't know if some of you guys have seen this. We've started now implementing this in a few of our different displays. So you see this really compact metal-based display. It's got a really premium feel to it, but it's really compact, really angular. Now, the prior, kind of tripod-based stand that we had, some people really loved it for the overall feel and the stability that it offers for the display, but they felt that it kind of take up a little bit too much visual space for them. So this more compact design, I don't think it actually really gives you much more desk space really back, because the prior design where you had the angled kind of flared out tripod still gave you flexibility to kind of angle in and position your keyboard and mouse wherever you want. But unquestionably, this is really compact, really reserved, and still gives you a great deal of stability without compromising, I think, on the premium element that you would have when we were generally looking at our higher end ROG series displays. So that's a cool little item. I'd love to see what your guys' thoughts are. Another cool thing that we did with specifically this display, and I don't know how many of you guys have noticed this for competitive players, but their ergonomics are quite unique. So really what you're trying to do when you're getting to this kind of competitive space is you really want to focus your field of view. And so in focusing your field of view, you're going to probably really punch in on the display, really looking really closely at the display. So you might see some scenarios where there's individuals that are kind of like super close. We're talking about like an inch, 2 inches away from the display. But the ergonomics for traditional monitors in that regard really aren't actually set up for kind of that type of field of view or for that kind of presentation. So one of the really cool things that we did here is that we redesigned the actual the angles of adjustment for this display. So you can see one is that the actual amount that you can swivel is quite high, 45 degrees, right? Plus or minus. The tilt is expanded quite a bit more. Traditionally on a tilt, you usually have about 20 degrees of tilt. So here you can see you've got plus to 35 and then minus 5. So that allows you a lot of flexibility to kind of adjust based on where your kind of field of focus is going to be. The height is also a bit higher. A lot of displays sometimes only tend to go up to about maybe 120, 130. So here you got up to 160 millimeters. But another item that I really love is going to be, let's see, I think there might be a breakdown of it. Let's see if we have it here. If not, it might be in maybe this little video package. So let me bring it up. Is that because we can actually drop down the minimum height also quite a bit more than a traditional display, and we can swoop it up. And with that variation in the tilt positioning, it actually allows you to have a really cool kind of look in terms of kind of setting this up for kind of a sweet spot scenario. Let's see it here in a moment. And overall, I'd like to see what your guys' thoughts are. I mean, this is something that we're always kind of looking at, is how do we purpose design the feature, the function, the design aspects for the product that we're developing for that actual user target, right? So of course, this might not be something that we would need to have on every type of display, but definitely for these more competitive players that want this type of kind of prone to position. You can actually see right there, if we go back right there, that was actually a good example. You can see right here, this more angular kind of inverted base design, which is, I think, is actually pretty cool. So this is going to be the ROG Strix Ace, right? And for those of you that are interested in it, it is actually available right now. It is going to be coming in at $999 in terms of the actual price point. So it is definitely going to be pretty much where you're competing. And the big debate would then be, would you want to go OLED or would you want to go for this? I can tell you actually after testing here that the motion clarity still on this display will beat out actually either currently the OLEDs that we have at 480 hertz, even actually the brand new OLED that we have coming out with the 500 hertz that just recently launched. This is still actually sharper in terms of the motion clarity. There's also a little bit of a difference in terms of SDR brightness performance. So this LCD is still notably brighter than a standard OLED when it comes to SDR. And for most gamers, they're playing in SDR, they're not playing in HDR. HDR is definitely going to be favorable for an OLED experience. And there's also sometimes an element of black transition performance, where even though OLEDs have outstanding, of course, contrast performance because every pixel kind of can turn off dynamically, there's a presentation to kind of how that OLED goes from an on state to an off state, where kind of the punchiness and this kind of presents itself in the outline characteristics that you have when you're looking at the image on screen, I would say would actually still be favorable on this type of panel design. So again, for those that are going to be playing, Valorant, Rainbow Six Siege, CSGO, right, Apex, you're really at the kind of that top end where you want the ultra high level of motion clarity. This is going to be a display for you. So I want to quickly just see what was the feedback here from people's thoughts in terms of what they're running in terms of refresh rate. I'm also going to go ahead and drop in the link there for anybody if they want to go ahead and check it out. So let's see what we got here. So Paskowitz is running 240 hertz. 240 hertz, I think, is a sweet spot. I think for quite kind of the foreseeable future, I think this is going to be a great option for the vast majority of people. That's a really big upgrade from 165. It's also generally pretty achievable on, I think, a mid-range to a high-end base GPU with adjustments based on your settings and, of course, the game engine and different things like that. So I think 240 is going to be really a sweet spot. We're going to probably start to see the introduction of some mid-range options that are actually going to bridge between 240 to 360. And one of them actually going to show you is a brand new exciting display that we're launching, which is going to be a very aggressively priced 1440p OLED at 280 hertz that I love. It's going to be coming in at $700. That I think is going to be a really nice option. Liquid House, 120 hertz. Okay, that's a little bit lower than I would have thought for you guys, but 120 is still definitely nicer than 60. So definitely nothing wrong with that. That's still in the high refresh rate camp right there. Hey, Jay Builds, man, happy to have you here, man. Thanks for joining us on the stream. Let me see if anybody else note their refresh rate. Hey, Wes, man, happy to have you here, LAN OC guys. So if you guys are looking for somebody that happens to review some ASUS hardware along with a multitude of a lot of other really cool stuff and still really gives you a lot of nice insight in terms of kind of performance measurements and charts and things along those lines, you guys can definitely check out LAN OC right there. Forsaken says, I run at 165 hertz. I haven't decided to go to OLED yet. Okay, so that 165, is that at 1440p? That's a very popular segment for a lot of people. Some people are still at that 1080p 165, and some people have jumped over to 1440p at that 165 target. So again, that's the ROG Strix Ace. It's a 610 hertz 1080p based display. And one other last item that I didn't call out, but I do want to note on this, is that this monitor does also feature an exclusive design that we've worked quite hard on, which is this going to be ELMB 2. And with ELMB 2, it's essentially a dual backlight design with this kind of backlight strobing implementation. The big benefit of how we can manage the actual backlight strobing is that we can actually affect a higher level of motion clarity. So when you actually talk about that this even still is a 610 hertz display, when you enable the actual EMB2 technology, you can actually perceivably see a much higher level of performance when it actually comes to the motion clarity experience. Now, normally the penalty that you would have when you enable ELMB, because it's a form of blacklight strobing, you're going to have a reduction in the brightness. But because this is such a much more bright panel, and this is again a benefit of LCD versus OLED, we can kind of take that penalty hit to where we can have the monitor operate at a lower brightness level, but still have a really outstanding level of motion clarity. So this is again kind of giving you just more tools for the competitive gamers that you're looking kind of for options. This can also be beneficial if you can't necessarily hit the peak kind of refresh rate that's natively in the monitor, because with the LMB, take for instance, in the past, you could have ELMB like on a monitor where we had it 120 hertz, but you ran it with the ELMB, and that'd give you about approximately the motion clarity of a 240 hertz display, but while only having to essentially average out an average frame rate of 120 hertz. And that could be a massive difference because maybe your system just can't get up to that higher refresh rate value consistently, right? So that's a very cool feature that we have. This is actually exclusive to us in terms of monitor functionality as well. So, okay. So Mazrim CF says, I got the PG32 UCDM. Excuse me, it's amazing. Yeah, that's a fantastic display, QD OLED display, 4K, 240 hertz, fantastic image quality level. It's got the Dolby Vision on there, the USB PD support. For a lot of people, that's kind of like the dream monitor. Still a really great option. Now it gets more interesting because we have quite a number of actually 32 models. I think right now, actively across all the different 32s that we're going to be launching, probably by the end of November, there might be like 6 different 32-inch version options that are going to be available. So a lot of different choices for users in that regard. All right. Let's go ahead and go to another display that we want to go ahead and touch on. This one has also been hotly anticipated, and it wasn't actually going to be available until the very end of this month, and now it is available. So speaking of actually a very kind of similar option to the PG32 UCDM, there are actually 2 types of panels that you generally have available onto the market, which are referred to as OLED. And traditionally, you would have what's called QD OLED. So that is going to generally have what's called like a semi-gloss type of presentation. And then you would have WOLED. And WOLED would generally use what's called an AR polarizer. So that's kind of the coating or the layer that's on top of the actual panel. In most situations, an AR or anti-reflective polarizer is favorable for more people because it's better at reflection handling. It handles ambient light better. Overall, it's just a more balanced kind of option for the vast majority of users, regardless of where you're going to be placing your monitor. QD OLED, though, definitely had its enthusiasts for people that really wanted a little bit more kind of clarity, reduction in what they refer to as haze, right? And they wanted this quote unquote pop, right? Now, one of the really cool things that our display team had been working hard on was seeing, could we bring about our glossy implementation that we introduced about a year and a half ago on our 27-inch monitor and kind of bring that into this new larger format based offering. And so we worked very hard and we implemented what we now are calling our true black glossy design. So this monitor has our true black glossy design. There's actually 2 different versions of it. So we have, and they're pretty much just broken down by about $100 price difference. They're exactly the same monitor in terms of overall kind of the design, the feature set, and the functionality. The main difference is just going to be the primary refresh rate spec. So one's going to be a 4K 240 option, and then the other one's going to be a 4K 165 option. And then the FHD toggle toggle will differ between the two. The higher end model has a FHD toggle 480, and the other one has an FHD toggle at 330. I really like that cost savings for that extra $100, and because you still have an amazing experience and you still get all of the other benefits of the display, including our best of class OSD management options, our OLED care options, and so many other really cool things. But if we go ahead and take a look right here, let me go ahead and just actually bring this up, and we'll show you right here. Let's take a look at this display, and here you go. So this is going to be essentially the presentation difference. So this is the true black gloss option that we have. This is exclusive to ASUS. We're the only ones that have actually implemented this on a display. So you won't get this from any other company. Alienware, MSI, Gigabyte, doesn't matter. Pick whoever you want. None of them have this option. The vast majority of competitors in the market are actually using QD-OLED solutions. ASUS is the only company in the industry right now that actually offers both WOLED and QD-OLED. So you can see right here, here's the QD-OLED, which gives you that gloss. But then it has pretty good actually reflection handling, but where you would sometimes also get is ambient light reflection. So sometimes if you had a heavy light where that light is on in the office or in the space that you're in, or you're getting something that would directly hit it, you would also get this color shift where it kind of goes from black to kind of like a purple presentation. Now, when you're gaming, you generally won't see this, but if you're using your monitor from kind of a productivity purpose, you might notice it. So that actual user that has the PG32 UCDM, I'd be interested to say, is that actually something they experienced, or did they not? Now, this very much can depend on the environment. Here you'll see the glossy WOLED that we previously introduced, and now we have our true black gloss. And so this is a really awesome option because it even goes higher in terms of the clarity and the reduction in haze compared to QD-OLED. It has great reflection handling, and it doesn't have that color shift. And then it really just becomes a debate whether you want WOLED or you want QD-OLED. I will note, though, that WOLED can offer a bit brighter performance in terms of that, while QD-OLED tends to offer a little bit better kind of color saturation and color volume. But I would argue that the color presentation on both of the types of panels are so good that it's kind of like saying that you have a difference between a car that can go at 210 miles an hour versus a car that can go 225 miles an hour. They're both breaking 200 miles an hour. They're both offering a great experience that's bold, bright, and dynamic, especially when you're talking about HDR gaming. But this is a really cool option. And so now, happy to note that we have actually have the availability a little bit ahead of time for this version. So I can bring up the link. I think Newegg is our first partner to actually have this monitor up already. So I'm going to drop the link in there. But if you just wanted to kind of quickly see the base spec on this one, again, this is going to be a 32-inch 4K 240 with the FHD toggle at 480 hertz. It also has that new compact metal base design, similar that we talked on the ROG Strix Ace model. It has our Neo proximity sensor, which is just a little time of flight sensor that can actually accurately detect your depth or your presence in front of the display. And so when you're not there, it automatically helps to shut off the display so that it can conserve its overall lifespan, because heat is the enemy when you talk about an OLED display. The closer the panel gets to 60 degrees, the higher likelihood that it can actually burn in. So we do a lot of really cool stuff with actually firmware mitigation features. We have more than any other manufacturer. There's no other manufacturer that actually has many as burn-in mitigation features as us, along with this Neo proximity sensor, which is also exclusive to ASUS. So you get all that really cool stuff. A lot of other really cool items like auto KVM is built into this. USB-C for basic power output. It's not a high power output, but if you want to be able to connect things, you know, like a laptop, a console, other types of devices that USB-C enabled, you can totally do that and you're going to be good to go. Factory calibrated, very good delta accuracy in terms of what you can see. And then my favorite feature that I always like to talk about that two people miss is going to be, that my favorite few features that people tend to miss is Display Widget Center. That's going to be our actually OSD management software. So within Windows, you can control all your settings. So if you want to be able to go from like racing mode to FPS mode, or maybe you want to be able to set a key binding for brightness so you can dynamically adjust key brightness, or something actually as cool is that if you want to be able to pair profiles to different games or applications, like I want to open up Call of Duty and have it be in FPS mode, but then I want to go into racing mode when I open up Forza, but then when I open my browser, I want it to be in sRGB mode. You can actually set that up and then it'll dynamically just shift for you automatically every time you open up an app. Absolutely love that feature. I think it's a super sleeper. And aspect ratio control is also pretty cool right here. A lot of people sleep on this, but this lets you actually run the monitor in different dimensions with different resolution targets. So an example is you could run it like at 27 inches at like 1440p, and because OLED goes all black, those black bars pretty much disappear. And in a way, it's not just a dual mode monitor, it's actually more like a tri or quad mode monitor, depending on the different actually aspect ratios and the different resolution targets that you pick. So pretty cool monitor. Again, available here. Let me go ahead and see if I can bring up the Newegg link for you guys if anybody wants to be able to go ahead and pick it up today, because I'm pretty sure this guy is going to sell out. I know a lot of people have been waiting on it, so let me go ahead and bring up this. Quickly check if anybody's got any quick questions on that, because I know a lot of people have been asking about that guy. Sorry, one second. I got to find that Newegg link that I had there. And we'll check quickly here on any questions that anybody might have. Newegg. Yeah, there it is. Okay, I found it. It was hiding from me. The link was hiding from me, guys. All right, yep. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and drop that into the chat. As of right now, it still has add to cart. So if you want to be able to pick it up, you can pick it up. All right, there you guys go. That monitor has been dropped in the chat for you guys. Let me go ahead and quickly see if we got any questions right here. And we'll see there. So yeah, I haven't tried OLED. I hardly play anymore, just design and build. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. You know, I mean, it's all a balance of trying to figure out kind of what works with you. You know, I would say one of the cool things from OLED, though, regardless, even if you're only doing kind of design, is that, of course, that amazing just contrast experience. And of course, if you're watching any type of content on there, you know, it is really an outstanding picture. If you've got a really nice color accurate, though, LCD, unquestionably, you can still have a great experience. I think anybody that says like inherently that the experience is unilaterally better isn't necessarily accurate. It also kind of depends on what the LCD is you're coming from. If you're coming from a much more entry LCD, it'll automatically seem like you're blowing it out of the water. But an example for me, I had a mini LED monitor that I ran for years, and it took me quite a bit of time. And even still now, I still actually wish my OLED display was brighter than it is right now, because it's actually notably darker than, of course, my LCD was, which I was just adjusted to after so many years. So it does depend. You have to account for kind of what display you're coming from. But that's also where very exciting, and the upcoming announcement is that, of course, hopefully maybe around mid to late October going to November, we're going to be releasing, of course, the next generation of WOLED, which are going to be the tandem-based WOLED designs. And those models are actually going to be featuring a nice notable improvement in terms of SDR and HDR brightness performance, which I'm really excited to see, because we've had a little bit of a limitation in terms of kind of what has been present on OLED, especially compared to LCD in that respect. So it's nice to be able to see that kind of bump up. Let me just see if there's any other questions right there. Jada B has got the PG27 AQD. I'm thinking about the PG27Q W-P because it's not coming in white. Yeah, so there is probably going to be a black version. We haven't confirmed as of that yet, but I think because that model has an entirely brand new design, because it has a new tandem technology, there's a lot of really cool stuff on that display. That's the reason why we wanted to go ahead and have it even kind of stand out further apart. But of course, historically, pretty much for all of our displays, we do black, and then occasionally we'll do like a dash white or white-based variant. So as always, just make sure that you're kind of watching out in that regard, okay? Go ahead and see any other quick questions. Pasquit says display widget is great, very underrated. Man, thanks for the plug right there. Also, we got, yeah, display widget. Neymar doesn't. I'm not sure what the feedback there, if you're asking something or you're noting something there, but we're actively always been developing on the features and functionality. Even actually in the most recent version, we're actually going to be adding full calibration functionality, which is pretty cool. I don't actually think there's any manufacturer that offers actually integration for calibration built into their software utility, which I think will be pretty cool, because when we launch the Cali control, which will be actually our colorimeter, you'll actually be able to run more advanced calibration, use the software, and then map that into the display, and even actually do some other really kind of cool stuff right there. Marzan says the proximity sensor has definitely saved my screen when I've gotten a call and turned away from the screen. Yeah, the really cool thing I like about it is, of course, you can tailor the distance of how it actually responds, and it's really quick. And the other really cool thing that I love about it compared to like sleep or hibernation is this just turns off the panel. So like an example is you could be playing a game, and then all of a sudden, like maybe you got to go take out your dog, or maybe you want to go, there's a delivery, or maybe you end up kind of go just getting a bite to eat or something, and you forget about everything. It doesn't actually fracture the game experience. Where normally, like if something goes in sleeper hibernation, like it can move windows, it can cause kind of issues. This just kind of turns the panel off, but then when you come back to it, bam, it pops back up and everything's kind of up and running. So it's a really nice experience in that regard. So it doesn't look like there's any other questions on that side. But Namor, yeah, the light bar I think we're referring to is the ALBO1. There's actually a dedicated utility that's actually designed independent for the light bar, and then it's kind of secondary designed to integrate within display widget. But I would say if you have feedback, just send that over to our service and support team. Again, we're actively probably releasing updates for display widget almost on a monthly basis, helping to improve functionality and stability. But it's been pretty feature stable, but that might be a very specific scenario because you're, of course, integrating the light bar into use with the with display widget. And I don't know exactly what your exact experiences or something that you want to attempt to resolve, but definitely send that over to our team so that we can go ahead and take a look at it. Okay. All right. So that's going to be those two displays. I think keeping on the display banner so that I don't kind of bounce around too much. Let me just go ahead and touch on a couple of the other displays that we've got kind of coming out here, or that I think you guys might be interested in. So let's go ahead and let me scroll down to my other displays here. So this one is also just recently dropped, a little bit of a sleeper, but I want to let people know about it. And that is going to be this guy, which is going to be the ROG Swift PG32 UCD-MR. So we just had somebody that actually said that they have the PG32 UCD-M. So this is an update. It's pretty much going to be very similar. It's not a big change right here. So the PG32 UCD-MR, the big update right here is just going to be essentially that upgrade to the DP 2.1. Okay. On this model, and you're also going to get the Neo proximity sensor. So when the UCD-M launched, it didn't have the actual Neo proximity sensor. It hadn't been released, right? Because we just released that in 2025. And then also DP 2.1 wasn't prevalent. Now keep in mind, DP 2.1, it's nice, but it's not critical, because the only people that can readily benefit from it, you have to be running a 50 series graphics card. So if you don't even have a 50 series graphics card, it's a non-starter. And also really the most immediate benefits you're going to get, some people talk about DSC. I feel very confident, and really the industry's done a lot of testing to show that it's a imperceptible compression difference. So there's no quality that you can really see in terms of having DP 2.1 and then DP 1.4 with DSC. But what is going to be potentially noticeable, and this does depend on the user, is heavy alt tab users. You can have what's called like a black box effect when you're actually kind of alt tabbing out and using DSC, where when you're going from one item to another, because there's actually compression that has to happen between those two different things that are being essentially drawn or presented into the display, you'll get a black box effect. Now, this is very quick. For most people, you will bypass it and you won't even realize that it's happening. But if you're somebody that's catches on those little details, you may notice it. So that's what I would say, is that that's a really nice thing if that kind of bothers you. But again, you have to have a very specific configuration and game kind of set up to either one, have noticed that, and like I said, you also have to have a 50 series graphics card to even benefit from that. So otherwise, all of the other spec is going to be identical. This is going to be pretty much a drop-in replacement for the PG32 UCD-M. It's just going to be the PG32 UCD-M, UCD-MR, and it's going to, like I said, the main two differences is going to be the DP 2.1 and then also going to be the Neo proximity sensor. Otherwise, pretty much everything else is the same. I'm going to go ahead and drop this one in the chat, and it is actually available right now. So if anybody is interested in picking up this type of display, you can. It is going to be an interesting conversation, though. Again, like, would you rather get this, or would you rather get like that XG32, right? Because that XG32 is giving you that true gloss black design, right? So I'd love to see your commentary in the chat. Which one would you buy? That one, actually, the XG is also even a little bit cheaper. Now, there are some other cool things that the UCD-M does get, right? Like it has even that more premium base. It has Dolby Vision support, which isn't available on those other units. This unit also has 90-watt USB-C power delivery. So if you're really somebody that wants to connect like a laptop or like an RG Ally or something along those and have that be powered by the display as well, then you have some more flexibility here. So this is also the reason why this is a little bit more of an expensive option. But if we talk about spec to spec and experience to experience from an OLED, that XG model makes a very compelling argument, especially when you talk about the clarity and the punch experiences. So be interesting to see what are your guys' thoughts on that side. So that's going to be the PG32 UCD-MR. Okay. Let me go ahead and see any quick questions on that. Any chance that a 4K version of that 2K monitor to be released with that beautiful translucent half. Well, that's our new ID design. So as far as whether or not you'll see that essentially in other displays in the future, I would say yes, right? I would expect to continue to see that. Right now, I don't have any new announcements for you in that regard in terms of what the next kind of high-end Swift display will be. So as always, you just have to kind of keep it tuned. But that's not a one-off. That is kind of the new updated ID design, and even the elements in the base of the stand. Those pieces, you'll kind of see that transition into some of the newer base models. In the same way, like I said, that new compact base design, you're already seeing on multiple new displays that we just launched within about the last month to 2 months. You're seeing that on more monitors. So yes, that kind of sets a benchmark for what you will continue to see moving forward. Okay. All right. Yeah, white, there's always going to be less. I mean, right now we have the biggest white ecosystem in the entire industry. There's no company that's making more white components than we're making. And it's very difficult. Like, one thing people actually don't even realize about white when you produce white is you might actually have to change your entire production tooling, because when you produce in black, sometimes there can be small tooling elements that actually exist within the way that the product is actually produced, but it's not noticeable. The user won't generally notice these items. But just in the presentation of white, there could be kind of marring, or there could be certain things that are present within the tooling that once you go into producing in white, it becomes very apparent. So that means you got to now do an investment to a whole new brand new tooling that's specific for white. This is part of the reason why sometimes white can carry a cost increase, because it is literally more expensive to produce it, because there might be an additional investment that you have to make in, or there could be even actually more yield challenges in terms of the actual yield output isn't the same. So that means that actually you might get greater yield from the black production than you might get from the white production. There's a lot of these complexities. It can be sometimes even product to product specific, but just to give you a little bit of insight, we have worked really hard to continue to expand the white ecosystem. And again, we're right now offering more white across every component category than I think any other manufacturer. That's a massive undertaking to do, but there's still going to continue to be the focus on black being the primary first, and then from there, white will always kind of supplement that moving forward. Okay. Paskowitz says, definitely dig the translucent new design. Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a really great looking design on that side. And we're going to probably talk on that one a little bit. So the next one that I want to go ahead and touch on, guys, here is going to be, I think, one of the best options for those of you that are looking to get into a display and not have it necessarily kind of essentially just be a much cheaper option. So, in the past, really to kind of get into the OLED category, you had to really be at around kind of like $1,000 or even above $1,000. We kind of helped to redefine that benchmark when we launched the AQDMG, which was our glossy version of the 1440p original AQDM based monitor. And that display is quite aggressively priced. Sometimes it can go even below its official MSRP, $699. Like, I think I've seen it like at $650, $629. I think one time we even had it like around like $600, like $599, which is pretty awesome. But this is going to be, I'd say, kind of the new sweet spot going into the remainder of the year moving forward. I think this is a really exciting option for those of you that have a little bit more, because I think for the vast majority of people out there, they're probably budgeting somewhere between about probably $250-ish to like $300 to about $500 for generally a kind of nice monitor gaming investment. In that regard, we're still not in OLED territory. We're still always going to be in the LCD territory, but we're really bringing down, I think, the feature, functionality, performance, cost to investment to get into OLED. And so this display to me is really exciting. So this one is going to be the ROG Strix OLED ACDMS. This is going to be a brand new option, and it's going to be hitting very shortly right here. So this is going to be coming in at an MSRP of $699, so $700. So what do you get on this guy for $700? So this one's going to be pretty cool. Now I've got another one that I'm going to talk about, which is actually also going to be pretty aggressive in the price point, and it's going to again be the alternative. That's always the thing with ASUS now, is you're almost going to have to always be looking at what's the WOLED solution and then what's kind of the QD OLED solution that we're going to be having, because they could be kind of going head to head with each other. But this guy is going to give you the third gen QD OLED technology. You're going to get the 1440p. So the 1440p is great because, again, that's like kind of like a sweet spot. 1440p at the 27 inches is great in terms of a gaming resolution. 280 hertz, so that's a nice upgrade even compared to like a base 240. And definitely if you're coming from like 144, or you're coming from 165, this is a really nice upgrade in terms of that. Plus the pixel response is so much better on OLED. 99% DCI-P3, factory calibrated. You get our ELMB motion tech on here. You get the Neo proximity sensor, the aspect ratio control. Also some cool stuff that people actually forget is we're the only vendor that actually also gives you adjustable HDR. Most times when you set HDR on a display, if let's say the game doesn't give you customization elements for the HDR, you're kind of stuck to whatever that presentation is. Now, sometimes you can use applications like Reshade or things like that to kind of take over from like an auto HDMR kind of implementation. But I love the fact that we have the ability to actually make additional adjustment layers, specifically with an HDR, where pretty much every other vendor locks this out from you. So we have really the best in class OSD management system. We have an unclamped what's called sRGB mode, and we have essentially adjustable HDR mode. So if you really want to be able to tune based on your preference, your game, whatever the experiences you want, we're giving you the most comprehensive range of options. And of course, you still get that display widget center software. So this, I think, is going to be, again, a really exciting option. That 1440p, 280 hertz, the Neo proximity sensor, all of our great OLED tech, right? Coming in at $699, I think this is going to be a banger. This is going to be a great option for those of you looking for maybe making, a little bit of a gift for maybe the kind of Q4 season. So check this, guys, out if you are looking for a higher end display to upgrade to, right? And coming without necessarily kind of breaking the bank. So let me go ahead and drop this one here in the chat, and you guys can check this one out. And we'll see any questions there. Oh, hello, Mods by Ben, man. Happy to have you here, man. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us here on the stream. Let me quickly see if there was any questions right there. Yeah, Joe to be like, I noted that already, as I said that we haven't confirmed the black-based version, but stay tuned as always, right, for updates on that side, right? Okay. All right. So that is going to be the XG27 ACDMS. All right. So I've got another one, though. I'm not done. This is lots. I told you it was going to be lots of monitors, right? So let's go in. We've got more displays here. Just dropping them here, right? So let's go into our next display. And this one is going to be the ROG Strix OLED, the XG32UCDS. This one is a pretty cool option. This is actually going to be an exclusive, I believe right now it's exclusive to Micro Center and to B&H. If you kind of think about it, in the 32-inch category, we've now really disrupted the price band, because we go all the way up to the peak pricing where we have like the PG32 UCDMR, we have the PG32 UCDP. So those are sitting at $1299. And then you drop down to the XG model, right? So the XG model was $1099. And then we have the other model, right, which is, I think, $999. And then now you drop down to this other model where we actually have now at actually $899, or essentially $900. So you pretty much almost have like each one of these $100 price drops that are coming down, which give you a lot of choice if you want to be able to get into kind of the 4K segment. This model, I think, is really interesting. It kind of competes again against that XG, the more entry version, right? Essentially that 4K 165 with the true black gloss design, but now we're going to be going to a QD OLED based variant as well. So this makes it kind of quite interesting. So this model right here is going to be the XG32 UCDS. Okay, so again, UCDS, and this is going to be a QD OLED offering. So 4K at that 165. Now this one doesn't have the FHD toggle option like the W OLED does, where it has that FHD at 330 hertz. But keep in mind that you still get our aspect ratio control feature. So you can still actually run this monitor. You could run it like in a 27-inch 1440p 165 hertz, which actually I think is really cool. So there's a lot of flexibility again with that aspect ratio, where again you can kind of have like a dual mode experience, even though the monitor is not advertised as a dual mode based experience. You're going to also have, of course, the Neo proximity sensor, the adjustable HDR, the display widget center software. USB-C connectivity is also going to be on this model. Just keep in mind it's not peak power delivery, so you're not looking at like 90 watts or something like that. It's 15 watts, just fine. You can charge devices with it. Great for like keyboards, mice, peripherals, things along those lines. Even quick charging like a phone, and anything along those lines. But it's going to be like a trickle charge for something that would be like high power. So if like you were connecting to a laptop, your laptop's going to get a little bit of power, but it wouldn't be there actively able to power the laptop. Whereas let's say like 90 watts, you generally could actively power the laptop. Although it depends again on the laptop type design. But this model, again, I really like this one. If you're somebody that's, again, also looking for that kind of that color volume, that saturation that QD OLED's very famous for, great option as well. So again, this is going to be the XG32 UCDS. Again, ASUS Store will have it, B&H will have it, and Micro Center will have it. So those are going to be exclusive. So pretty much kind of most people, when they're buying at Micro Center, they're not buying online, they're buying at store. So it's kind of like a physical store exclusive there at Micro Center. And then we have one retailer that has it with B&H, and then the ASUS Store. So that is going to be the XG32 UCDS. And kind of now when you take a look at the whole stack, again, we go from the very top, we have the PG32 UCDP, PG32 UCDMR, right? So those are coming in at $12.99, W OLED and QD OLED respectively. Then we're going to drop down to the XG32U series. Those are going to be the ones with the true black gloss coating designs, right? So one's going to be at $10.99 and the other one's going to be at $9.99, right? So 4K 240, and then the other one is going to be the 4K 160 option with the FHD 330 toggle option. And then we drop down to this one with the XG32 UCDS. So you can see a lot of different options that we have just within that 32-inch form factor. Okay, let me go ahead and see. So 165 only, yes, because this is the cheaper option. Again, I just recapped that if you want the higher, if you want like 240, if that's like critical for you, then go up to one of the other options. So the higher end version of this would be what I just talked about earlier, the PG32 UCDMR. That's the 4K 240 version, right? Would give you that. And then if you also want something like the FHD option, then you could do the PG32 UCDP, which would be the 4K 240 with the FHD toggle at 480 hertz, or the XG model that I also showed at the very beginning, which is now available at $10.99. That also gives you that true gloss black coating, 4K 240, and also the FHD at 480, right? So it just depends. Curve versions, not for any of these. Nobody really kind of, it's not really a market presence. You don't see adoption of people really wanting 32-inch curve-based monitors. It's not a common base target. Curve really tends to sit most. I think actually maybe like a little bit of a subtle curvature around like 1500R, sometimes for maybe something like a 27-inch. But really where you see the most adoption within curve is going to be in the ultra-wide segmentation of the market. So we're generally looking at usually 34, 39, or larger base displays. We did recently update a 34-inch based OLED offering that we have, but that's where you generally see curve-based options. Yeah. Okay, all right, so let's go from there. All right, so here I'm going to drop a couple of just quick LCDs, and this is going to be for those of you guys that are maybe on a more limited budget, really kind of want a nice upgrade in terms of kind of like a monitor, but you're looking to quote unquote not break the bank. So these three displays are all in a really great sweet spot. They're going to be between 200 to 300 bucks. So three options that I think these are going to be awesome for a lot of gamers out there. If you're still at 1080p, or you're rocking like a much older 1440p display where maybe the color accuracy is not great, it doesn't have a large amount of color volume, and you want maybe a higher refresh rate, but again, you have a more limited budget, these three options under our new Tough Gaming 5 series are going to be fantastic options. So let me go ahead and bring these up for you guys and show you here. So again, we're going to have three versions of these. One's going to be coming in at $200, the other one's going to come at $240, and then the flagship model is going to be coming in at $300. So let's go ahead and go with the first display that we're going to be talking about. And this is going to be Tough Gaming. So this is going to be the Tough Gaming VG279Q5A. And if you guys are not aware, the new Tough Gaming 5 series is kind of like an analog to our XG series under the RG Strix lineup. Really, the goal was overall we have about 10 Tough Gaming 5 series monitors, and we kind of wanted to redefine kind of price to performance. So these all have kind of really kind of key specs that really kind of hit the sweet spot on the market. Aggressive pricing. You'll also very much kind of see a lot of active what we call channel promotion, like we do with the XG series displays. So that means that while we have the standard pricing, you would expect to see kind of promotions available. Now, what that might vary to, I can't commit to tell you what you're going to see in terms of kind of reduction in pricing, but we will be actively engaged with our channel partners running promotions, and you will see them consistent. A great example of this is a very popular display under the XG lineup is the XG27 ACS. It's in kind of the sweet spot monitor for a large monitor in the market. $300 for a 1440p 170 hertz, really well balanced monitor display, and it was consistently probably on average, probably like every 30 to 45 days, we were running promotions on it. And you could be sometimes saving $25, $50, even sometimes $100 in terms of the display, which when it was $100 was pretty crazy in terms of the price reduction. But let's go ahead and take a look at this guy. So this one is going to give you 27 inches, full HD, and fast IPS panel. So you're upgrading to that latest generation version of a fast IPS based panel, 200 hertz. Official G-Sync compatibility. This is actually pretty rare. A lot of the cheaper vendors on the market will omit doing formal G-Sync compatibility. They'll just do FreeSync because that can kind of pretty much just be quote unquote bundled with the display. But G-Sync compatibility actually does require formal compatibility testing with NVIDIA's labs. Still, we also give you our ELMB sync technology, which is a form of backlight strobing, which is really cool. And then you even have 99% sRGB coverage, which is really nice in terms of just color presentation on the display. It's pretty much just about 100. So you get good color reproduction on this. And you also are going to get our display widget center. All of that for $200 plus a 3-year warranty. There's a lot of manufacturers that are at this price band that sometimes only give you a 1-year or maybe a 2-year warranty. So we still maintain a full 3-year warranty with this really solid spec. I think this is a great option for a lot of people. Just want to maybe get a monitor for the first time. This is a great option that doesn't break the bank. $200, a really well-rounded display. About the only thing that I would tell you that you would probably say miss, and this is kind of hard to say whether or not you would immediately use it or not use it, would be the ergonomic range of adjustment. So this being a more entry-level display, more premium displays like our ACS model on the tough gaming side would have 4-way ergonomics. So that means you can do tilt, height, pivot, right? Rotate. You can do essentially 4 different levels of ergonomic adjustment. On more of the entry displays, you're usually just going to see tilt, not even height adjustment, just tilt adjustment. So that's going to be, I would say, the main reduction. And then also maybe the number of ports or a USB hub or something like that. But for a lot of people, they're generally not using those items. So it's not usually that much of a drop. So I think overall, again, really solid option for those of you that are looking, again, for a nice upgrade, but it's not too expensive. So that is going to be the VG279Q5A. So let me go ahead and drop that one in the chat there. All right, and we're going to go into our next display. All right, so for the next display here, we're going to go to 240, right? And so if you remember, we previously looked at the one that was 200 hertz at 27 inches. So here we just jump up to even a little bit of a faster display. So 27 inches, the fast IPS, the 240 hertz versus 200 hertz. Still keep the G-Sync compatibility, and pretty much everything else is going to be, again, the same here on this one. So you're just paying about $40 for 40 hertz, if that makes sense, right? So we went from the 200 hertz to now the 240 hertz. So this is going to be another option that you're going to have available. So let me go ahead and drop this one in the chat if you wanted to jump up to that one. Hey, Charles. This is our ASUS PCDIY stream. So here we only focus on ASUS's core components of products. We don't focus on our system-related products. For things like our system-related products, I'd recommend you check out the RG Pulse podcast. It's run over by my friends on the systems-related team. They cover things like our laptops and things like our RG gaming handhelds, the RG phone. So system products are going to be generally, like I said, like laptops, gaming handhelds, the phone product, and our gaming desktop systems. Here on the PCDIY Weekly live stream, the only thing that we focus on is all of our core components. Okay. All right. And so the last display that I want to touch on is going to be probably my favorite display in this kind of budget lineup, because I think it's kind of the sweet spot for a large amount of those that are probably looking to kind of upgrade to a display. And this is going to be the VG27AQ M5A. Very similar. So make sure not to mess up a model number there, or model number name within this one. So this one's going to be coming in at $299, but I really love the overall spec for this display. So this is going to be 27 inches, 1440p, 300 hertz, okay? And you get the fast IPS, right? The ELMB sync. This is a wide gamut based display. So we can notice we actually we don't tell you even the sRGB number. We actually go up to DCI-P3. So 95% of DCI-P3. That's going to be because this is a wide gamut display. It's actually over 100 sRGB. So that means you get really nice kind of color pop in contrast. You also get higher brightness than the other displays that are going to be on there. So this is a fantastic monitor, especially for those of you kind of considering maybe like dual monitor setups for like streams or different things like that. 2 of these at $600, I think that's an amazing deal. If you consider that really cool kind of OLED option that we just talked about a little bit earlier that has a really kind of strong value prop, right? That's at $700 for a single display, and that's going to be that 280 hertz 1440p based OLED. But here, essentially for that 300, you're going to get 1440p, 300 hertz, wide color gamut, display widget center, ELMB sync, all that cool stuff, the 3-year warranty. I think this is a fantastic option. So again, for me, I'm recommending this as the overall kind of like sweet spot for the vast majority of you that might kind of be maybe upgrading to a budget display. I think this is a really solid option to check out. So $100 for 100 hertz, very nice. Yeah, well, it's not actually, if you kind of think about it compared to the other one. So yeah, the other one at $200 versus the $300, but it's not even just the 100 hertz because that was 200 hertz. But actually, it's $100 essentially for getting 1440p. So you went up from FHD to 1440p. You went from essentially sRGB 100%, 99% to here. You actually go over to, I'd have to double check, but this is probably like 120, 130% sRGB, 95% DCI-P3 because it's a wide color gamut, right? And then the 300 hertz. So you actually get a brighter display. You get more colors that can actually be produced on the display. You get higher refresh rate and higher resolution. So actually, I think for that $100, that's a fantastic deal to actually jump up to for this display. So really, really solid option. So yeah, that's going to be the Tough Gaming VG AQ-M5A. All right, so that pretty much wraps up all of our key monitor announcements that I wanted to kind of touch on right there. I didn't want to kind of touch too much on the stuff that we kind of announced at Computex already because we did do that a little bit, but I do want to throw a little bit here. So let me go ahead and just touch on this really quickly. So give me 1 second here. Just for some people that I know that we had some questions about them, so I do want to touch on them quickly because they're going to be coming out and we always get questions on them. So we do have a little bit here. I'm sorry. Actually, let me go ahead and refresh this here. There we go. So what we actually recently announced are going to be that, like I said, coming probably for North America. I probably think very late October, probably November timeframe, but make sure to watch the stream for updates, is that we do have some additional displays that are also still going to be coming. So the big one that a lot of people, or at least there's a lot of noise about, this is going to be still a very premium high-end display. So I'm not going to say it's going to be the broadest adoption, right? This is going to be the PG27AQ WP-W. So this is what some of the people in the chat have been talking about, that new ID design. You can see it has this beautiful, really cool translucent design, silver. It's got these actually cutouts within the frame of the base. I think it looks fantastic. So this is going to be the tandem OLED technology, again, with higher peak brightness, better color volume, even better operating lifespan, all of the great features that we normally have in our great displays. But you're going to go to 1440p, 540 hertz, and then you're also going to get an HD mode that can go up to 720 hertz on this display. So when you talk about kind of our stack, it gets pretty crazy because we're going to have essentially a 240 hertz OLED. We're going to have 280 hertz OLED. We have 360 hertz OLED. We then go to 480 hertz OLED. We then have a 500 hertz OLED. And then we're going to have this one at 540 hertz. And that's all 1440p. I'm not even talking any other resolution. We literally have every little step right there. So we have a 240, a 280, a 360, a 480, a 500, and a 540. And that pretty much goes down to about, like I said, $700 up to whatever the price for this display, where we have not confirmed pricing for this model. So that is where we're kind of at right now in terms of the overall displays. And then we have this model right here, which will be the XG27AQWMG, which this one will be also with the true black gloss design, 280 hertz. So this will be very similar to kind of that QD OLED option that I noted, right? 280 hertz to 280 hertz. Do you want to get the WOLED based option with the true black gloss, or do you want to get that QD OLED based variant there? We're also going to be doing an update to the prior generation, the AQDMG, called the Gen 2 version, which will be a 240 hertz based version, updated with the newer true black gloss coating. And that, I don't know what the final MSRP will be, but that one, it may even potentially be lower cost than that $699 based option that we noted at 280, because it'll be a 240 option. So I think that that might be kind of like the super sweet banger for a lot of you that want to get into OLED and are trying to look for the absolute lowest price, but you still get all of the amazing features that ASUS brings to the table in terms of our feature, function, quality, and overall design. So those are going to be some of the updates there, wrapping out what we've got coming up from, like I said, Q4 timeframe for those other displays. Okay. And I'm not going to tell you anything else. I won't tell you what type of monitor it is, but I'm very excited. There'll be another monitor that we're going to be announcing under the ROG lineup for maybe later this year that I think a lot of you that love high resolution are going to be very excited about. So just make sure to kind of keep it tuned. You guys will see there. Okay. All right. Liquid House says the translucent back is wild. Yeah, I think it's a very cool design. And I think, again, it just kind of continues to evolve the look and feel of what we have there. So yeah, here I'll show you guys a little bit more of an image shot. I think I have one right here. So you guys want to see it a little bit more closely. Yeah, give me 1 second right here. Yeah, you guys can see this right here. And then I'll show a couple of little news, and then we'll keep going to some of the other items right here. So here you guys can see the display. And the first thing you'll notice is that we, of course, still keep that triangular base display, but we have these cutouts, and the cutouts just automatically give it a little bit more of that kind of sci-fi, kind of modern, kind of mech type styling, which I think is really cool. And then, of course, you have that translucent base design there with the reflections, which I think also add a really cool element. We keep that kind of pixelated ARGB display, of course, the pass-through routing design, which has been present in the prior generation. But I think it's a super cool looking display and setup. Would really nicely match here my little white kind of gaming build that I've got. But overall, yes, I think this would also still look fantastic in a black base version. And trust me, we know that we have a lot of people that would love to see this version in a black base variant. But again, because we have a brand new ID design that we're presenting for this monitor, we wanted to be able to kind of show it off with something new and a little bit eye-catching. And I think that definitely presenting it first in the white variant was going to be doing that. Okay. Will it have a heavy weight to it? Yeah, I mean, I think, Ben, I think you've probably used one of our ROG Swift PG series displays. I don't think there's actually any manufacturer that makes as premium as actually display as we do on our OLEDs. Most of them are just generally using plastics for their actually at. Now, there can be definitely a wide grade of plastics that get utilized, but to my knowledge, we're the only vendor that's actually using a full metal base. So on any of the PG-based monitors, all the PG monitors have a really heavy base. And actually, while there's some users that complain that they didn't like the base, the big benefit that that base has is that it has a really premium stability to it, so that even when you want to move or adjust the monitor, it feels really nice and stable. And I think that's something that I really loved about the display, where that's hard to do when you don't have a lot of weighted base stability, right? When you have a more kind of flimsy base design, when you move the monitor, you feel kind of like the whole monitor is moving around. And you could imagine, especially for like the larger displays, like 32 inches, that was actually part of the reason why when we launched the PG series, we had that big angular base design, because we wanted it to feel really nice and stable, right? Yep. So overall, I think pretty cool in that regard. So that is going to be, again, kind of everything that we did there in terms of all the display updates and some of the displays that you guys can pick up right now. I want to quickly just touch a little bit also on the fact that some of you may have kind of seen some of the news that came out that, you know, I've been with ASUS now, I think 17 years, a pretty good chunk of time. And it was really rewarding and exciting to be able to see. I've been through now multiple anniversaries we have, but we are, of course, right now going through our 30th anniversary celebration for our ASUS graphics cards. If you're really not aware, ASUS is really probably one of the leading pioneers, if not probably the leading pioneer in graphics card innovation. When you talk about designs that have been put on graphics cards, you might not be aware. The first active cooling design on a graphics card was an ASUS card. The first manufacturer to do 2 fans on a graphics card was ASUS. The first manufacturer to produce 2 GPUs on a graphics card was ASUS. The first manufacturer to do a black PCB on a graphics card was ASUS. The inventor of the dual BIOS design on a graphics card was ASUS. The 0 dB fan operating speeds on a graphics card where the fan stops spinning, that was also pioneered by ASUS, and now it's used by everybody else, just like so many of the great designs that we do. And so now celebrating 30 years, one of the real big hallmarks of 30 years was that we decided to do something really special and introduce the latest generation of the Matrix series graphics card. So if you guys remember, the last Matrix that we did, of course, was the last generation with the 4090 Matrix, which of course was also the first graphics card, again, kind of pioneering the industry to introduce liquid metal in a factory production environment to actually release that to the actual market, right? So here, I just quickly wanted to show you, we're not ready to kind of go into all the details about it here, but you guys have seen a little bit about it, but I wanted to be able to go ahead and show it to you guys. So let me bring this up here. Is going to be, of course, where we have the ROG 1590 Matrix. I'd love to see what your guys' thoughts are right here. I think it looks absolutely stunning in terms of the overall design for this card. So here we kind of have a little bit of throwback. If some of you guys have seen the prior generations, even the very first generations of the Matrix graphics cards, they had a little bit of this kind of rounded radial design accent to it, which I think looked fantastic. But then you can still also see that there's some design continuity with the current generation Astral series cards. And then there's also some other kind of little design elements kind of brought in there that are new and old, kind of all wrapped together. And for me, for somebody that's been around for ROG for so long, for many, many years, for a very long period of time, the ROG aesthetic was unquestionably First, actually, it was red, black, and white. And so somebody that have been around for RG will remember for years we had the red, black, and white. And then we shifted to just red and black. And then eventually we really kind of toned everything down to monochromatics, which is what you have now. And the monochromatic kind of focus was just to be able to add more minimalism and kind of a focused design presentation for people, especially with the RGB movement, right? Where you didn't want to have colors contending or competing with builds. But I think one of the disadvantages of that is that you don't get that purposeful color design, which we had sometimes in prior generation products. And so here it was cool to be able to add that purposeful color back in, also have it be a hallmark of what ROG was really known for so long with that red and black aesthetic. And I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I love this kind of this curvature right here. It's got very much kind of like retro kind of tech type of vibes to it, but it's got that really kind of modern styling to it. This wrap around a little bit kind of like halo display, I think looks fantastic. The little light up sub bar right here. And then of course that really premium element where I think we're the only vendor that's doing this, where we course do the anodization to the eternal heatsink to do it all black. That's also something we were the first vendor to ever do on a graphics card. We reserved it for only top end cards, and we didn't do it for years, and then we reintroduced it back again. And right now you only see that like on our Astral series, and you see that on our ProArt graphics cards where we black it all out, and I think it just elevates the look. And if you're not aware of that, just go look at your standard graphics card and you'll see that the heatsink assembly is always going to be silver. Yes, and this, of course, will also support BTF. And if you're not aware, one of the really cool things about the new BTF generation of graphics cards, the 2.5 base versions, is the 2.5 version has a modular connector design now. So that means that actually you can utilize the graphics card in a standard non-BTF based motherboard build, or you can also utilize it on a BTF based motherboard. So this graphics card can be used again on standard motherboards, or you can use it on BTF based motherboards. So let's just see a little bit of the feedback on if anybody had any thoughts on the updated card design. So Suman, of course, says that he wants a matrix. That I would expect that, right? So Steph loves the retro design of the old matrix. So Steph being a long-time builder, I think that, yeah, he would appreciate that right there. Also notes, and the shade of red is really good. Yeah, I love that it's like kind of a really bold, deep red, kind of, and it goes back to kind of the classic deep reds that we had that were kind of metallic, right? So I'm definitely a big fan of that side, right? It slowly grew on me, the design, love the RG red. Yeah, I think with some of these things, what we generally always see with a lot of our graphics card designs is that sometimes just different can be polarizing. And so some people kind of see it and they're like, wow, that feels really different. But the more that they allow it to kind of grow on them, especially for, I think, our really premium cards, we've seen this with the prior 40 series Strix cards when we release them, and then with the Astro cards, when people also get them in their hand, you almost cannot realize like kind of the quality and the look until you really get a card. And I think people probably in the chat, I'm sure probably individuals, like Lano C, who's a reviewer, right? Or Mods by Ben or Snef or Liquid House, or even just general uses that we might have in the chat can probably speak to that. Like when you feel that card and you see it and you see the chamfers, the cut, the finishing, it really just elevates the look where you go like, oh, wow, I can really see this. And sometimes the pictures actually just don't do them justice, right? So pretty cool on that side. So Liquid House says, I'm happy to see that you guys are leveraging a higher TDP. Yeah, so, well, it's not actually negating. We're actually leveraging both. So they're kind of working in tandem, essentially. So we're actually leveraging over the 12x6 power connection along with the BTF power design to be able to actually allow us to even have that higher 800 watt power envelope to even be able to have the highest essentially out of clock performance. The Matrix is always about kind of innovating, and it's always about putting performant. So we wanted to kind of be able to do something different, right? Yeah. Mods by Ben tells us, yes, it's stunning. Fantastic, man. Thank you so much, right? So very cool. Yes, you have to actually use both to be able to get the peak course primary power envelope, right, for the graphics card, if that's what you're asking. So that is going to be the matrix-based graphics card. So let's go ahead and go into just some updates on the GPU side. But again, rounding things out for the anniversary, I want to let you guys know actually about a giveaway opportunity that we do have going on right now. So I'm going to share this in the chat for you guys, and you guys can check a look at it if you guys are interested in it. But it will give you the opportunity to be able to win some awesome hardware, and then also just be able to kind of go through a little bit of the amazing history that we have. So you can actually see right here, we've got multiple things. We've got the memory Ferris wheel, the milestone roller coaster, the cable card, the arcade, the secret mission, the ROG card collection, polling station, the souvenir shop, and the Dreamcraft, right? So these are all different things that are going on. You essentially get this kind of page that comes up. You want to log into it, go into your ASUS account, and you would be good to go. And there's actually different level of activities and pricing and things along like that we have going along with that for our 30th anniversary. So I would recommend checking it out. You have the opportunity to win a lot of really cool stuff. So if you guys are interested in it, just go ahead and take part. Let me go ahead and drop this in the chat for you guys as well. So. And these will be, I think most of them are running until about, I think it's until about like October, if I remember correctly. Until about October. Yeah, so right here, here's the primary page that you guys should be seeing. And so you can see here, this one's like the secret mission. You can see is running from like August 20th to like October 31st. The RG card collection, August 20th to October 31st. You can see some videos, some different kind of dialogues and pieces. You can see right here, one of the really cool prizes, right, is that there's a BTF version of the ROG Astral actually signed by the CEO of NVIDIA, right, Jensen. You can see here we're going to be giving away one of the new ProArt 5080s. We've got ROG Strix 5070 Ti, Tough Gaming 5070. You can, of course, see the memory Ferris wheel grand prize is actually two things. You get a Thor 1600 watt and an ROG Matrix, right? So, and you can see that we've got other combinations right here. We've got the Tough Gaming, got the ProArt with the ROG Strix, and then the Strix with the ROG Strix, and then some other cool kind of peripherals and swags that are kind of going along there. So if you guys want, like I said, make sure to go ahead and jump into that, and you guys have a great opportunity there to be able to, like I said, see what we've done in terms of really innovate the industry, but you have some opportunity to win some pretty cool hardware. Yeah, we need a BTF Maximus Gene. So we did do BTF Micro ATX, but you can't fit the actual GPC HW connector on there. So you're always going to be running a standard configuration. The other reality is that Micro ATX is just a small volume in the market. It's very small. Even the prior Gene models, while we did sell through with them, a lot of the people that say that they advocate for them, it just doesn't really end up stabilizing in terms of a strong level of channel demand that is sustained, especially when you're talking in that very high-end segmentation of the market. So I think right now what we tend to focus on is kind of mid-range sweet spots. Even within the ROG Strix, we offer now a couple of extra ROG Strix models for this generation, including a white variant, which I think is quite nice. So I think for us, we want to continue to try to make sure that we can offer pretty good breadth and depth. But things like the Gene, it's really only going to come and be present in the market space if we really have a high enough level of demand. Keep in mind, we made an X670 Gene. I love it. I have it in one of my personal builds, and it's an amazing board. It's an absolute monster, right? I love its feature, function, and design. But for the vast majority, I think there's just, you weren't seeing that Micro ATX audience want to adopt into such a specialized type of board design. And for us, when we go into a Gene level board, right, is requiring a lot of extra R&D and validation work. You know, for reference, like a normal motherboard takes us about like 4 to 6 months worth of like R&D and production effort work. When you go into specialized board productions like Apex Genes -Is, you can be looking at 6, 8, sometimes even 10 months in terms of research, design, development, production. And then you also want to be able to ultimately produce it in sufficient quantity that you, of course, get a return on that. And so it's always that balancing act of kind of seeing how we can meet the demand of our niches of our market, offer a great deal amount of breadth and depth, but also make sure that we're not leaving out maybe more volume-oriented product offerings that people are interested in. Like a couple of the models that I want to touch on here that we'll talk about, like a new Tough Gaming Wi-Fi 7 model that we just launched and a new RG Strix-H model. Those are ATX-based models in kind of key price bands of the market where we're going to see a lot more people really adopt into that. And that becomes a really kind of interesting discussion to say which is where we should prioritize, right? So it's always tricky there, but really appreciate that feedback. And if you're not part of our PCDIY community group, make sure to share that type of feedback with our community group, and they can share that with our production team so that we can always look at kind of saying like, hey, we're seeing a lot of consistent feedback from people that want this type of SKU, this type of model. But appreciate you, man, supporting ROG. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and keep it going. So we were on graphics cards, 30th anniversary. Continuing on with the 30th anniversary news. Sorry, let me go back into graphics cards here. We got the ProArt based graphics cards that are going to be coming up. So let me go ahead and just bring up. We got a lot of cards, and I'm just going to quickly kind of try to bang out most of these cards here for your guys' reference, just so you're kind of aware of what we kind of have coming up. So, and I'll drop the links in the chat for you guys. So give me 1 second here. Got the ProArt. I talked about the RG Matrix, And yeah, here's the Noctua. Here's the white Prime. Okay, there we go. All right. All right, I think hopefully our server is maybe going through some maintenance. So hopefully some of these pages are down. That's a little bit of a bummer. We're going through some site maintenance. So I didn't have some backup images. So we'll just do our best to kind of go through what we have right here. Okay. So first one is the RG Matrix, which I already gone ahead and talked about, guys. I'll go ahead and drop the link in the chat. And of course, as we get closer to the launch, we'll definitely talk more about this card, and you'll see more information about it as we get to it. But I will go ahead and drop that link in there for those of you who want to see that guy. The next card that we want to get into is going to be this guy, which is going to be the ProArt 5080. So this will be the first ProArt based graphics card that we're going to be coming out with under the 50 series banner. So of course we launched ProArt previously with the 40 series. Absolutely one of my favorite looking cards. It just had a really refined look and style to it with that black and gold aesthetic. Here for this new generation, we have a little bit of an updated accent wood design, which I think looks really cool. You're still going to maintain that classic 2.5 slot form factor design, which if you're not aware why we're prioritizing 2.5 slots specifically for ProArt is because that allows you to, on a ProArt compatible motherboard and even on select ROG motherboards, where you actually have dual by 16 slots that are on the motherboard, you can actually run 2 of these GPUs for acceleration. So for professionals, creatives that are actually doing either like AI, advanced 3D modeling, or doing actually advanced image editing or video production, you can actually use multiple GPUs. So take, for instance, like if you're using DaVinci Resolve, you can actually use 2 GPUs in tandem together. Gamers can't utilize 2 GPUs anymore, but content creators and people doing advanced production workflows can. So this is the reason why we specifically don't make ProArt cards to be bigger than 2.5 slot, because we want you to be able to put 2 of them on, like let's say a ProArt X870 motherboard or a ProArt Z890 motherboard, or on a WS motherboard that has multiple slots on it. So you still maintain that 2.5 slot design, also a compact design in terms of the overall length. Very high performance vapor chain design, the phase change, thermal pad. Now, keep in mind, phase change thermal pad is consistent on all of our cards down to the 5070, I think 5070 class base part, right? So 5070, even on the Prime side, the Tough Gaming side, the ProArt, the Noctua, RG Strix, and the RG Astral, every single card actually gets phase change thermal pads, which is pretty cool. And also new for this generation is the inclusion of the USB-C. While you could always get an adapter to actually adapt HDMI to USB-C or DP to USB-C, some people just want a real native USB-C connection. So if you're obsessed with USB-C and you want a native connection, it is there and is present for you. So that is going to be the ProArt 5080. This card is going to be coming in shortly. Now, one other item that you are actually going to see on this graphics card that you don't see actually on this version right now is going to be that there will be an SSD-based version of this card. So let me go ahead and quickly actually bring this up here. So I'll show you guys. So give me 1 second right here, because I want to be able to show you guys the difference, and you want to watch out for these differences. Now, in terms of the actual card cost, let me go ahead and put this in. So for the ProArt 5080, our MSRP, I think, is going to be $1,699, so $1,700 is going to be the price point. So hold on here. Oh, I don't have it for this one up yet. Okay, that's fine. All right, so let me just go ahead and put this link in here first. Give me a second, guys, and drop this in here. Okay, so this is going to be, like I said, the ProArt 5080 and ProArt. And I could show you this. Yeah, here we go. So 1 second, I found the image that I'm looking for. All right, so this is just a news reference source here. You can see here from our friends over at videocards.com, but you'll see on this model that you'll notice a secondary heatsink that's on this card. But if we take a look at the base design on this model, right, and you'll notice in the title name, it actually doesn't say SSD. So this is going to be an important delineation, is that you can see right here in this model, there's no actually M.2 SSD slot. So there will be an actually SSD based version. The SSD version will allow you to actually use what's called PCI bifurcation from the motherboard to then be able to actually have direct CPU link LADs to a PCI Express Gen 5 M.2 SSD. And for some people that wonder, like, how does that actually work? Performance doesn't pretty much affect the GPU at all. And actually, from a thermal performance, you actually get even better thermals than the heat sinks that natively are actually on the motherboard side. So you get actually outstanding, the same performance like if it was running on the motherboard, and you actually even get cooler operation along with easier installation, which especially for some builds, depending on the complexity and the layout of the build, it might actually be even simpler and easier to be able to install the M.2 SSD there on the back of the card. So that is going to be the ProArt based graphics card, like I said, coming at $1,700. One of the really cool thing that we're going to be doing with the ProArt based versions of these cards is going to be the introduction of something that we call the LLM tuner. So the LLM tuner software is going to essentially allow you to run a local AI on your system. Now, we had already been pioneering this with our ASUS Muse Tree software, which came with all 50 series graphics cards that actually allow you to do generative AI locally on your own system. And it works really, really elegantly. Just install the software. You then associate your kind of generative art pack, and then you could just put in certain prompts, and then it kind of uses these little plot points, and you can kind of go from like here to here to here to here, but it's all hosted on your own system in the anonymity and the privacy of your own system. And I really love that. And there's also no cost associated with kind of having to run things. Now, this is actually what you see right here with the Muse Tree software. But with the new LLM tuner software, the LLM tuner software will then work on the essentially on the text side, right? So if you want to actually be able to start running more advanced LLM-based models on your graphics card locally, we're actually going to have a really cool front UI that will also be available for the cards to allow you to do that. So a very cool experience that, again, really shows our commitment to kind of pioneering the streamlined experiences that we're offering creators and professionals. So that is going to be the ProArt 5080, and as I noted, coming in at $1,799 there. All right, and see any questions right there? Suman says the ProArt 58 looks awesome. I loved my ProArt 4080. And then, yeah, he says the ProArt design aesthetic is such a win. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the ProArt aesthetic. And speaking of this, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a teaser. There's just a little bit of a teaser for you guys, okay? Just a little bit. If you guys are fans of ProArt, we're going to be updating some new specific ProArt items on the chassis side. And so let me go ahead and show you. The first one is going to be, they're going to have this ProArt, where, if you guys remember, we already launched the PA401, okay? And now we're going to actually be offering a PA602, and this PA602 is going to be the PA602, but what we call retro brown. Now, we did actually, I believe, see this out to a couple of creators, but it's not yet actually been made available. So you can actually go search the internet. I think our friend, Mr. Matt Lee, has actually done a build in the retro bad version. Now, I can't confirm for you the timeline in terms of the North American release, but we will be offering this version in North America. So just make sure to kind of keep it tuned if you do want to be able to kind of see this version. It does look pretty sweet. So let me go ahead and bring it up right here. Yep. All right. So this is going to be the retro brown. So the current version, of course, is pretty much all black. It's really clean, really stylized, looks great. But this one has that nice dark kind of brown earthiness to it, which I think looks really, really cool. So this is going to be the first one. This will be the retro brown. Of course, this kind of has a little bit of kind of contiguous hallmark that it could kind of play out. I think it could look really good with the Noctua-based graphics card as well. But there you go. This is going to be the first one on the ProArt side. So if you like the ProArt, we are going to have the retro brown ProArt chassis. So what do you guys, are you guys feeling it? What do you guys think? What do you think about the retro brown PA602? I think it's pretty cool. It's a nice little bit departure from the standard black base design that we have. And we're also going to have a variant here that is going to be called the beige edition in wood for the PA401. So let me go ahead and show you this one. So this is going to be the PA401, but the beige edition. So we will be carrying both of these in North America. Right now, not a confirmed timeline. I would probably expect more information to be able to give you guys sometime in mid Q4, okay? So again, and look at even that matching internal fan, right? You can see there the matching internal fan. If you're not aware, the PA401 is the smaller brother to the PA602. So the PA602 has those massive 200 millimeter fans, right? 38 millimeters thick, right? Here, this is going to have dual 160 fans on the front for really great intake airflow. And then that 140 millimeter fan, which is also in the rear, which is also thicker than standard. So they're both high performance, high airflow based designs, but they have that really nice, cool, refined ProArt based styling. So ProArt PA401 beige edition, essentially, and then the ProArt PA602 retro brown edition, right? So those guys are going to be coming later. Hey, Julian. Happy to have you here. So let's go back into graphics cards. Okay, we're going to go back to graphics cards because we got more graphics cards. We're trying to keep on time. So next one here is going to be, of course, I think probably most of you had it because we didn't have a PCDIY stream to highlight its announcement, but it is essentially getting ready to release into the channel. So I just want to touch on it, which is going to be following up on the ProArt 5080, which, like I said, is going to be coming in at that 1700. We're going to have the the Noctua 5080 version. So on the 5080, there's actually quite a number of 5080s. We have the ROG Astro 5080, we have the Tough Gaming 5080, we have the ProArt 5080, we have the Noctua 5080, we have the Prime 5080, right? So there's quite a number of 5080 cards that we're going to have in our lineup, and that doesn't even account for the white base variants that you would have within that, or the BTF base variants. So the 5080 might actually almost be maybe the broadest card lineup that we have in terms of the number of cards available to users. But this is going to be the updated version of the Noctua compared to our prior generation. So we've been doing now the Noctua collaboration for multiple years, where we work with our great friends over there to be able to integrate their awesome high performance based fans into a customized thermal solution and design that allows you to have those fans and then be able to have the quietest card in that class always on the market. So, and that's a very impressive testament because already our cards already set a benchmark generally in terms of thermal performance and acoustic performance. Our goal is always to be essentially cooler, quieter, and faster. So taking already a very cool and quiet card and trying to even make it better, it's actually quite a bit of a challenge and takes a lot of extra work to be able to do the revision to the actual internal heatsink assembly and then integrating that in with a new custom fan shroud that actually supports the larger diameter fans. So this is going to be coming in at $1,600 for this model. And of course, you get 3 of those Noctua NF A12 25 G2 base PWM fans, and then pretty much all of the other hallmarks that you would expect with ASUS graphics cards. So the vapor chamber design, the phase change thermal pad, the dual BIOS, the 0 dB operating tech, and all of those other great features that are going to be baked in there. So again, that is going to be the Noctua based graphics card design. A bit of a different design than the prior generation, which of course had 2 fans and also had a little bit of kind of gold flecking that was in there. Actually, I kind of liked that gold flecking in there. It was subtle, but I think it kind of gave it a really kind of cool vibe. So there you go. So this one definitely, I think, could complement the look and feel if you were looking to do that that build with the PA602 retro brown edition. I think would be pretty compelling, right? So give you guys a little shot of the back plate. And of course, you got that Noctua logo design accent right there, which is pretty slick as well. One thing that you guys might not be aware of that is actually a really cool feature. This is not unaligned here with these with this graphics card, but I want to show you something that a lot of people actually don't realize. We're the only vendor that does this on the market right now. But if you look at our Prime Series graphics card, you look at the ROG Strix, you look at the ProArt based graphics card, the Tough Gaming, and the ROG Astral, we actually use a design where we have what's called a decouple fan shroud design. This is actually pretty cool. Let me see here if I have an image of it. Do I have an image that I can show you here for this? Let me think here. Do I have one? Yeah, I don't have. Oh, you know what? I can do it this way. Give me 1 second. So what the decoupled fan shroud design means is that it gives us the flexibility to allow you to essentially remove the top of the fan shroud, but without removing the heatsink assembly. With many manufacturers, when you actually go about removing the shroud. You actually have to remove the entire heatsink assembly. And the reason why that can actually be a little bit of a pain is that one, you can actually wear the thermal pads. You can remove the thermal compound. Then you have to either reapply the thermal pads. Maybe you have to replace thermal pads. You got to reapply the thermal compound. But if you want to do something as simply as kind of just clean the fans or the heatsink assembly in our design, you can actually go ahead and decouple them. So you can actually see how the fan shroud can be decoupled, but you can actually still keep the heatsink assembly on the card. So that means that you never have to affect the actual thermal pads. You never have to affect the actual thermal compound that's been applied to the GPU, but you can still clean both independently. That's right now a hallmark design on the Prime cards. It's also present on the Pro graphics card. It's present on the RG Astral, the Strix, and the Tough Gaming model. All of that have that. The only vendor unilateral that offers that. These are a lot of the design details. It's not even on our product page. So unless actually the reviewer or people are paying attention to understanding these design differences, these are part of the additional value points that we bring in within the card design, which actually I think are really cool. So just something I just wanted to touch on that maybe some of you guys might not be aware of that we're doing on our graphics cards. So pretty cool. All right. Let me go ahead and quickly see if there's any questions right there. Liquid House says definitely going with brass tubing routing on this one. Okay. Still no Noctua 90. Yeah, and again, 90, I think it's because it's more so about the positioning and availability, right? I think 80 makes more sense. It's overall bigger, kind of in the sweet spot of where the majority of the volume is. And again, where we're always trying to hit the quietest class, you also have a different thermal level of performance that's on the 90 than on the 80. And so us wanting to kind of hit the associated target, I think the 80 is the right class in terms of kind of sitting that. But as always, we'll see what feedback is if we ever make a design revision to that. But the 80 has kind of consistently been the selected model that we've been targeting in that regard, right? Okay. All right, so continuing, we did the ProArt, we did the Noctua, right? So next one here I want to touch on is just going to be a little bit of a soft update on this side, which is going to be, we've been slowly releasing now, kind of coming out into Q3, end of Q3, our white-based edition graphics card updates. So the first one I wanted to touch on is actually this guy right here. It's going to be the Prime 9070 XT in white. So this is going to be a great upgrade for those that want to be able to have a bold and bright aesthetic, not be too expensive in terms of the graphics card, so this is going to be definitely, it's in that mid-range enthusiast, so it's still not super entry, but we are going to have, of course, white versions that even drop down below this, including a 9060 XT. It's also available in white. So if you have a more limited budget but you want a really nice white card, I love the way that the Prime cards look in white. We have that really nice, beautiful, clean white backplate, the white fans. Some vendors, they actually have like a white shroud and then they still make the fans black, which I think is kind of interesting. So even if you want to do vertically a mount, you still get that really nice kind of white on white design aesthetic. And you still get all those really nice design hallmarks that we have within our card design. So the dual V BIOS design, right? The 0 dB operating tech, the PCI power LED monitoring features. So I think this is a great looking card. Again, really nice price point that will be available for here. Let me confirm on the pricing actually for this one. Give me 1 second. And let me know, are you team horizontal or team vertical? I think it all depends on the look and feel of your build that you're going to be doing, right? But I do really like the look of these Prime cards in the white. I think that they look really nice. So that is going to be the Prime 9070 XT. Okay, and let me see, Prime 9070 XT. What is going to be the price? And for this one, should probably be seeing it in the not too distant future. Probably going to be, I think, looking probably within about the next 2 weeks or so, I would say approximately. So Prime 9070 XT should be coming in at 730 should be its price point for the Prime. And I don't know if you guys can let me know if I shared the chat, if I shared the Noctua graphics card link, but let me go ahead and share that in. Paskowitz, I know what team you're on. Yeah, I'm on team horizontal, man. I always prefer horizontal. But, again, if I think a build looks in the right way and it's tied in the right way. I mean, I've had a hardline loop that I've done with a vertical mount, right? So I'm not like opposed to it, but also that the system also did have a DIMM.2 based module, because one of the things I don't like about vertical mounts is that you limit the slot access or even M.2 slot access, and it becomes a big kind of challenge to kind of have to deal with that. So I almost, if I'm going to do a vertical mount, I want to use it like on an Apex board or like on an Extreme board, where I have then at least kind of easy access to be able to kind of do things like that, or also at least a board that has a PCI alteration mode switch, because since you're going to use a riser cable, you might run into those issues. So, but I'm okay. I'm team either or. They both can look fantastic, and it just comes down to the execution and the vibe that you want to be able to have in the build. And we design our cards. I work very closely with our team to give feedback to make sure that we are counting of both design aesthetics, right? Whether you want to be in team vert or you want to be in team horizontal, right? So next card is see right here. Looks like the links are down for it, so see if I can go ahead and get in the next one. So next one is going to be the Prime 5070 in white. One second here. Okay, and so this is going to be the Prime 5070 in white, and this one's going to be coming in at 710. Okay. So won't kind of go through the entirety. This is going to look pretty much almost exactly like the 9070 XT. Is this going to be an NVIDIA-based part as opposed to an AMD-based part? But I want to just re-highlight that we have both of them available now in an updated based white offering. So again, the Prime 5070 in white, and then we also have that 9070 XT in white, and you can pretty much see they look identical in terms of the overall shroud design. Keep in mind, all Prime cards are also going to be the same thing, that they're always going to have that 2.5 slot form factor design. So very compact, great for dual GPU configurations if you're going to be using it for more advanced production workload purposes, or again, just great for compact, micro form factor builds or small form factor builds as well. So that's going to be the Prime 5070 in white. All right, next one is going to be the 5070 Ti in white. So let's go ahead and do this one. Here we're going to be moving up to the tough gaming lineup in terms of the GPU. So we kind of, if you're always thinking about kind of our product stack, kind of dual and prime are roughly about the same level, right? And then from dual and prime, we then move into the tough gaming. So tough gaming is the next position up. So tough gaming series is where we then move into the 5070 Ti, which will be offered in white. And we'll have white pretty much in every single GPU position. It just might change in terms of the series that we're going to be offering it in, right? I think this model looks fantastic within this tough gaming in white. So you have these nice little kind of silver accents, which I think look really, really cool. You got just a little smidge of lighting there that we kind of added in right there, just at the top of the portion right there. But I think it looks really, really nice. Again, those larger fans that we have, of course, with the tough gaming, because it has a larger heatsink assembly, larger fans, even better thermal performance than what we have on the Prime series. But again, this is going to be one of those cards that just looks fantastic. It's bold, it's bright, it's got a really cool vibe to it. I do like that in this generation here, we have just a little bit of that more kind of present RGB accent lighting. Now, of course, you can just go into dark mode, and I think it would look fantastic if you didn't have any of the lighting on there. But if you want a little bit of contiguous, same thing like this Astro. I mean, I loved kind of this rear LED design. There's a lot of people originally kind of like, they didn't realize kind of how cool it was until it kind of presented itself. But I think it's nice to kind of just have a little bit of a tie-in to some of the lighting that might be present on the system within this model. So that's going to be the 5070 Ti in white under the tough gaming lineup, and that card is going to be coming in at 1010, so essentially a little bit over $1,000. So 1010 is going to be the price point for the 5070 Ti in white right there. So Sneff says, seriously, the Prime in white looks really good. I agree. I think it looks fantastic. And that white tough is so good. Yes, I would agree. Although it's tough gaming, not tough. But yes, it looks very, very nice in that regard. So that is going to be, I think, is that all the GPUs that I wanted to touch on? So, no, we do have the dual. Let me go ahead and get this one in here. So the dual is going to be coming in at the one of the lowest cost options. If you want to go in white, this is going to be coming in at a little bit over $400. I think $400 and $410. So between the white and the black. I think, again, this is a really great card for the money in terms of its performance, and it looks still also really nice. The dual cards, they have this really nice compact profile that I think really kind of fits in nicely between a motherboard. It doesn't overhang at all. It kind of fits inside of the motherboard. So it's got a really nice, clean, focused vibe to it. Again, we still even use a really nice white backplate to the card. I think it's a nice, clean, compact white card that I think looks fantastic. So again, coming at kind of $400, this is a great option. Again, you can get it in the black version as well. So again, we've just kind of started refreshing in all the white variants. So 9060 XT, you can get a white. The 9070 XT, you can get a white. Just keep in mind, one's going to be the dual version and one's going to be the prime version. So 9060 is going to be in the dual. The 9070 is going to be in the prime. So it's 2-fan versus 3-fan. Then remember, we went up to the prime 5070 in white, and then we had the Tough Gaming 5070 Ti that was also in white. So you can start to see how kind of like we're tearing out the white range of options that are available to you. And this one, you can already see right there, it's 410. It's actually available right now. So that is going to be that. Let me actually change the name for that one. So give me 1 second, because that is not the 5070 Ti. We'll go ahead and just adjust the name right there. That is going to be the dual. There we go. All right. So we'll show that there. So yeah, that's the dual RX 9060 XT. And that's the 16 gigabyte version right there. Okay, so that's going to be in white. And I think we have a couple of other white ones I want to touch on. Most of you should probably be aware, but they're starting to kind of just finish pushing out into the channels. So I do want to touch on them, is that both the RG Astrals are now actually getting in terms of their availability for white. So we will have the RG Astral in both the 5080 and the 5090 in a white base variant. Okay, so that is important to note. And of course, it looks absolutely fantastic in white. This card just looks absolutely stunning in this white design aesthetic. So let me go ahead and drop this in here. And let me just, by show of hands, is there anybody in here in the chat that has an RG Astral right now? Who's rocking an RG Astral? So the RG Astral 5090 and 5080, they're going to look identical. I'm going to show you for the 5090 in terms of the image, but they will look exactly the same. So it's the only card on the market that has a full die-cast, actually metal shroud design, which is absolutely just insane. It's pretty crazy in terms of the weight. This card, even compared to something like a supposed competitor with like the MSI Supreme, I think our card almost weighs still 300 grams more. Theirs is a mix of kind of metal and plastic. Ours is that full metal-based shroud, right? And then there's so many other design details that we have, whether it's the per pin PCI power monitoring technology, right? The quad fan based design, right? Of course, the more advanced VRM assembly, the dual HDMI, the isolated actually moat design that we have to mitigate things like cracking. There's so many really cool things, but I think I've touched about all those things that were previously on the RG Astral series. But you can see that beautiful back plate, and keep in mind that the metal on this back plate, it's all actually cut out. It's got really kind of cool, subtle textural differences on there, so we have to machine finish at this. If you actually look at the thickness of this back plate compared to competitors, it's almost sometimes about 3 times thicker than some of the competitors in terms of their actual back plate card. So they, of course, Astral is a super unique card. Then you have that prismatic custom filter that we created for the RGB lens array that's on there that just looks really, really cool. So again, yeah, you'll get the 5080, you'll get the 5090 in white. Price points for both of those, let me go ahead and double check here. For the 5080, it's going to be $1,850, and then for the 5090, it's going to be $3,400. So those are going to be the RG Astrals in white. So those will be coming out right there. I still use my Zonar STX, so standard mount for me. I feel you, man. Zonar STX is still better than any audio that we've ever put on a motherboard, right? Even the really nice Maximus boards that get the nice codec and then has the ESS Saber DAC and chip on there, you're still going to get better audio from a Zonar STX. So I feel you. Just sometimes when they have those slots there, either for easy access to those M.2 slots, or putting in a 10G add-in card, a nice sound card, a multi-gigabit capture card, a multi-gigabit Ethernet card, right? Or whatever it might be. It's just nice to be able to have that flexibility, right? Yeah. Seriously, Prime in the white looks really good. Yeah. So very, very cool. So those are going to be the RG Astrals in white. And one thing I want to note, I don't have too much motherboard news to kind of touch on for you guys, but I wanted to touch on this here, is that we do actually have an updated series on the entry side on the motherboard. And I'll touch a little bit on motherboards because there's a couple of little pieces of news that I want to touch on. But where do I have it here that I wanted to show? So we have recently updated a new series that we call the Max Gaming series, and the AYW series. And so both the AYW series and the Max Gaming series, we actually have white base variants. And the cool thing that you have there is, you can get a really nice option from ASUS at a lower price point. And this, for me, might be one of the best looking options at a low price point if you're wanting to get into a white-based product, but not have to kind of break the bank when it comes to the cost. Although I think we've done a really great job to be able to offer a wide range of white options, from the RG Strix-A, which has always been very price aggressive based on its position and its feature set, where we have the RG-A under the B850 lineup, and we also have an X870-A model. And then we also have, of course, always had the Prime-based models. But as we've shifted away from offering, of course, the kind of the standard kind of -A or the Pro, right, that we would had that would kind of been that wide option, there's a little bit of an alternative that we're kind of positioning here. So let me show you this guy off here. And I think this is going to be pretty nice. So this X870 Max Gaming Wi-Fi is coming in at $250, which I think for its price is a really nice option right here. So you can take a look at this board right here. This is the X870 Max Gaming Wi-Fi 7W, again, at $250. I think this is a great looking board if you want to be able to have a bold and bright aesthetic, right? But not have to go into kind of the more expensive, because generally you would probably be looking closer maybe around $400-ish, right? Probably for a white board, especially with a more white PCB like this. But we have a lot of options. Again, we have the B850-A from the RG Strix family that we have. And we also, of course, on the BTF side, we also launched the Tough Gaming BTF B850, which is also available in white. But I think, again, for $250, this one also has an analog black version, so you can get it in black or you can get it in white. It's a little bit of a sleeper. We just kind of released these. You won't probably see too much visibility on the Max series because we have so many other models that we're focusing on. These are just kind of in that option to be able to offer a competitive ASUS-based product in terms of the kind of the price, but you still get a lot of nice solid features on these boards. So again, if you're looking for that kind of sweet spot in terms of price to performance, not break the bank to be able to get a white option, maybe check this X870 Max Gaming Wi-Fi 7 in white. Okay. Hey JJ, is the X870 Hero BTF? Yes. So actually I'm going to touch on that in a little bit. So that is on part of the motherboard updates that I have to talk about. So just kind of keep it tuned right here. So continuing on just some of the motherboard updates that I wanted to note. Let's finish going through some of these right here. So let me bring up here. Where's my next motherboard that I wanted to touch on? And I wanted to go and quickly note on Miku first, and then we're actually going to touch on the BTF based option. But the long and short of it is, if you're looking for the X870 Hero BTF based option, it should be available in the not too distant future. I have the confirmed pricing for it as well. So if you guys want to be able to check that out, you can do that. So if you guys are not aware, of course, we always have our almost, I would say, annual we almost have our annual IP collaborations. And so we've done IP collaborations with Evangelion, with Gundam, with Given Slayer, Call of Duty. And of course, our most recent IP collaboration is, of course, with Miku. And you'll see a wide range of products that we have within this. Pretty much everything is going to be available in North America except for the monitor. So you can see, of course, we have the Miku Edition based motherboard. We have the brand new Helios 2. I'm going to touch on the Helios 2. If you didn't realize, this kind of slipped under the radar. I think I talked about it actually in the last stream that we had, the ROG Astral Miku Edition, the Ryu 4 in Miku, the Thor Miku, and then some apparel along with the Arion. I think the monitor, we're not carrying the monitor in our region. Apparel, I think, is TBD, but pretty much the other items will have a limited availability like we normally do for those collaborations. So I did want to touch on that. If you are interested in getting kind of this cool stylized Miku Edition based board, we do have it available right now. So this is going to have the cool Miku styling based elements, but the Dash H is also a new model update that we have available. And I love this model. Now the Miku Edition version is going to be a bit more expensive. It's coming at $599. If you go with the standard version right now, which would be this model right here, it's going to come in at $399. This, to me, is probably, I think, overall one of the best options that we have in our entire lineup. If you're looking for a really awesome just board that's packed in with a lot of really cool design features, function, and spec. So it's got a really cool ID design. It has the quick access M.2 for the primary M.2. It's got the quick release design like all of our boards do right now, the X870 lineup does. Really nice stacked I.O. design as well there. I also love our separation design right here, where this actually also has a quick access for the bottom M.2 design. Then you have still an available slot access right there. If we go over here to the I.O., you can see I.O. is quite good right here, where we've got 10 gigabit, then two USB A's at standard USB 2.0, 5 gig, and then 4 5 gig, 10 gig, and then 10 gig, and then 40, and then 40. So that's going to give 3 USB-C, right? And then that's going to be 2, 4, 6, 10, right? So that's 10, 11. So a lot of ports on this board, then Wi-Fi 7, 5G LAN on this one, not even 2.5G LAN, and then clear CMOS, because we added clear CMOS to actually all of the RG Strix lineup this year. It was a cool update that we did from everything from the Dash A all the way up, all have clear CMOS, where in the past we actually used to only put clear CMOS on the Dash E and higher, but now actually every motherboard gets actually clear CMOS. And for those that complain about the debug LED, I think that clear CMOS is much better than a debug LED, because the usability of it is, it's impossible for you to clear the CMOS short of going into the motherboard and either removing the battery or shorting jumpers, where the debug LED can be somewhat redundant, especially if I already got the QLED, and it doesn't actually always give you more information in terms of a debug path. So if I had to pick one or the other, I'd actually much rather have a clear CMOS button. But I think this is a fantastic board. Again, price to performance. You also align this in with the new Tough Gaming Wi-Fi 7 board that we came out with, which is at even at a lower price band. And then that Max Gaming Wi-Fi. Those are actually some really cool price points where you're kind of looking at like the $250 price band, then I think $299, and then you have this $399. So 3 kind of different options, all within X870, which is pretty cool. Not even talking about B850 based options. So that is just another one that I want to drop in there. I'll drop that into the chat in case anybody wants to check that board out, along with the Miku based version, if you guys want to check out the Miku options. Liquid House Note says the Miku Astro colorway is just so good. Yeah, it's got a really cool kind of vibe to it right there. I love the offshoot motherboards that don't typically get released in the States. Actually, the IP collaborations always get released in the United States. The only actually, I think, models that we haven't really released in the US tend to be what are called regionally specific. So they were never designed to be released in the United States in the first place. So it's not that they were just don't get released here. They were designed for another region. So that's the reason why they don't get released here. The only other one that we've generally had that sometimes people can get is called the TX series. And it's actually something that we are discussing, that we may bring the TX series to America. Historically, just America hasn't had a strong reception to some of those more kind of stylized design elements. But I think as you've seen anime and kind of manga culture, anime culture kind of becomes just so prevalent, even within the US amongst a younger audience, we're seeing more affinity that people really love that. And of course, that's also part of the reason why we started the ACG initiative, the Anime Comics Games Initiative, and why we've offered the Evangelion, the Demon Slayer, the Miku, right? All these different options within North America, because we know that there's an audience there. I think the main thing is always just trying to figure out with something like the TX series, which is not a limited base production model, it would actually be normally consistently available, how much there's actually an audience in that market to maintain that product essentially being consistently available, if that makes sense, right? Because otherwise, when you start to get into very niche colors, a lot of companies will tell you the challenge when you put a lot of stuff that's very niche or custom colored oriented is how much product will end up sitting potentially in inventory, which is what you don't want. That's the reason why you see a lot of consistent colors, like you'll see white, you'll see black. But if you start to get into like, I love purple. I think purple's a fantastic color. I love orange, sunburst orange, and yellows and things like that. But those are very risky colors to produce, because you could be sitting on, like you produce like 5,000 of them, and then maybe only like 1,000 of them the people buy them, and then you have a lot of the inventory that's being held. So it's quite risky. So you have to very much manage when you get into very specialized, stylized designs that can be quite polarizing in terms of how people appreciate them or they don't appreciate them, on how much you actually end up kind of bringing in within the market, right? So yeah, just something to kind of keep in mind there. Let's go ahead and go in here. Let me put in this RG Strix board for you guys. And then I will link also the Miku-based collaboration site. So if you guys want to check out any of the Miku collaboration items, including, like I said, that motherboard, you can check that out. Okay. Continuing on the motherboard side, I noted that Max Gaming Wi-Fi 7 board. Where is my BTF board? Okay, yeah, here we go. So this is going to be an update in terms of the ROG Crosshair X870 BTF. So again, we've been very in the thick of it when it's coming to BTF and kind of the current BTF ecosystem. So we have, of course, recently launched things like our A31 chassis, which is a BTF-enabled chassis. We have the ROG Hyperion, which is BTF. We have the GT302, which is BTF. We're right now in the process of shipping out our brand new 50 series graphics cards, which are BTF. And we had already launched a Maximus Z890 Hero BTF, and then a Tough Gaming B850 BTF. The Maximus Course Hero being, of course, Intel in black. the tough gaming being AMD and in white, but now we have a black-based version and a high-end version that's available for those of you who want to go BTF on the AMD side in black. So that will be the Crosshair X670E Hero BTF. So this will pretty much, I'm not going to go over all the features of the Hero. If you guys want to know more, pretty much I would recommend watching our AM5 live stream where I cover the Hero in depth. You go all the kind of the insights on there. It's going to have every single thing that we have there. It's just going to be the BTF based version of this motherboard, right? So again, you just need to make sure to have a BTF compatible chassis. Some people forget that when you do run a BTF, there are two versions of BTF. You can run what's called BTF standard. So that means a BTF chassis, a BTF motherboard, and any graphics card. So you can use any standard graphics card, or of course you can use a BTF based graphics card. So let me go ahead and just bring up a BTF based graphics card and show you. Also, if you're wondering, the price on the BTF model is going to be $800, so $799, right? And if you wanted to use something like, let's say, the ROG Astro BTF, let me go ahead and bring up an image here. So this is the ROG Astro BTF, which will be coming. And you'll see right here, there's an auxiliary connector. That auxiliary connector plugs, of course, in here to the auxiliary connector that the motherboard has. And the motherboard then provides the power directly to the graphics card. Another cool update that you might not be aware of, we just finished updating GPU Tweak 3 so that even when you're running the BTF-based graphics cards through the motherboard, the advanced per-pin power monitoring technology of the Astral is still actually accessible to you. So even though we don't actually have that normal connection running directly to the card, because of the way that the card is designed, we can still actually monitor that information. So if you still wanted to be able to have that full readout information for your BTF-based graphics card in GPU Tweak 3 with the real-time monitoring, the real live OSD alerts and things along those lines, you can still do that on the BTF-based graphics card. So both of them have that available. So this card, this motherboard should be hopefully available maybe by the end of this month, if not going into sometime next month in terms of the availability. So BTF, again, we have the Maximus Z890 BTF, the Tough Gaming B850 BTF in white, and then we will have the ROG Crosshair X870 Hero BTF in black. So 3 different BTF-based motherboards, and then we have an entire lineup, of course, of BTF supporting products, whether we're going to be talking about BTF graphics cards, BTF chassis, and then also the Ryu will finally be coming very shortly, which will have the SLC version, which will be the optimized BTF-based cooler. So if you want to be able to run a cooler that looks amazing in a BTF-based build, then definitely the Ryu 4 is going to be an option for you guys. So let me go ahead and quickly check to see if there's any questions on that one. And I'm going to bring up probably the Ryu 4 really quick here, because I also have confirmed pricing for those that might be interested in the Ryu 4. So let me go ahead and bring that one up here. And I'll bring this. So the Ryu 4 is going to be our next high-end flagship cooler, kind of going alongside the ROG Ryogen 3 Extreme. So this unit, of course, is going to feature a 6.67-inch LCD-based display that you have here. Looks absolutely fantastic in terms of, 6.67 2.5K based AMOLED based display, along with the new Info Hub based design system, which is really cool in terms of actually being able to kind of pair all the information. But the cool thing that you'll notice within this model is that the tube length here is actually 200 millimeters. So it's quite short. So you have a really nice kind of routing length to kind of be able to kind of pull that in. So if you want that really kind of minimal looking vibe to it, it's really cool on this. This also has a slidable kind of design mechanism to allow you to have a little bit of adjustment in there, which is pretty slick as well. The fans also on here are actually a real kind of special point. They're the best really kind of performing along with the Ryogen 3 fans that we have, the best daisy chain RGB-based fans on the market, actually, from a performance. It's not even kind of close. If you want to compare this to like Lian-Li's Uni fans, here, if we actually take a look at the static pressure, I think the Lian-Li Uni fans, they're not even at 3 in terms of their static pressure performance. They're probably somewhere around like the mid 2.5s or something like that. Here you can see the static pressure performance. Keep in mind, this is at peak. It's at 100%. You wouldn't run at 100%, but still we have significantly better static pressure performance at 5.45. And then our CFM performance, I think the CFM performance on those units is actually sub 40. And here you can see at 71. So daisy chain magnetic, ultra performant. One thing to keep in mind though for this Ryu unit is it uses a significantly thicker radiator than what we've traditionally used on many of our other models. So the traditional radiator thickness on most AIOs is 25 millimeters. This unit, if I remember correctly, is a 32 millimeter radiator. So it's quite a bit on the thicker side. So you do want to make sure to account for kind of the depth height that you have available. Now, this chassis that we have, the A31, I love it because you can actually have a huge amount of clearance, even with our really big Ryujin 3 Extreme, which has a thicker the radiator and also really thick fans. You have, I think, like 80 mils of clear clearance here, so you can still stack it up and it doesn't hit or obstruct anything, and it doesn't really eat into the top visual height. But just keep in mind, if you want to run this, you would want to make sure that you're accounting for the thickness of the radiator and then also the fan height. But this will be a very cool option. This will be coming in at $470 in terms of the overall finalized MSRP for this guy, the Ryu 4 SLC. And then there will later be, like I said, a standard version, which will have a little bit longer tube length for people that are running kind of more normalized setups. Also, I would recommend that if you want to check out the kind of product page in the video that we have, which shows more information on the new Info Hub system. The Info Hub system is really cool, really dynamic to even allow a lot more granularity and control in terms of how you can go in and you can manage and set everything up. It's really, really nicely done. I'm a big fan of the Info Hub system. Yes, there will be a Ryu 4 in white, but I think production isn't going to start until like November. So if you do want this one, we will have it white, just like we've done with the Ryujin. And actually, all of the ROG coolers, we've always had a white version and a black version. But the white version, like I said, November. The black version will be first. So black first, maybe October timeframe, maybe November. It just depends. It could even roll into November. And then I would probably expect for the white, because the production won't really start probably until November. I think we might not even have availability until maybe the beginning of next year. So don't expect the white version probably this year. I think probably going to be next year, early next year, like January, maybe timeframe or something like that. Okay. All right. Yeah, so that's going to be the Ryu cooler. And then I want to give one other little teaser here for cooler. It should be coming. I think we just launched this actually in Canada. The Canadians normally don't get product ahead of us in terms of the US, but they are in this scenario. They actually are getting it. They are getting it ahead of us. Is going to be the Tough Gaming LC3. So this is an update to the LCD coolers. I love the look of this new Tough Gaming LC3 based AIO cooler. There is also, for people who are going to be asking, there is going to be a white version that's going to be available. There's two versions, an LCD and a non-LCD based version. So the LCD black version will be first, and then the white version will come later. I don't have finalized pricing yet for North America, so I can't tell you what the North American version price is going to be. But I wanted to at least show you this cooler really quick. So if you guys want to be able to check it out, I think this will be a very cool option in terms of the overall, like I said, an update to our lineup. So this will be the Tough Gaming LC360 LCD-based version. And I think kind of three things that are going to be pretty cool on this is, one is that this is kind of like the Prime series. So with the Prime series AIO coolers, the actual fans are integrated on one single fan frame. So that means that from a kind of just an installation kind of streamlined experience, it's really simple for the builder because they don't have to screw any additional fans or over torque something or kind of worry about anything. They're already just pre-installed, all integrated in there. You're all good to go. So it's all set up. That would be the same thing also for the white base version. It's got this kind of cool geometric kind of pump head, which I think just looks really refined. The size of the actual screen is also quite good. It's quite a bit larger than a lot of the more standard models on the market. Still, screens are still actually pretty rare in terms of that you have to usually go to a higher end model. And so this is going to be quite a bit less expensive than some of the other models that have a screen. This is going to be 2.88 inches. For the IPS-based display that's going to be on this model. So that's actually quite nice in terms of that. And the other thing that I would actually note here is going to be the performance of the fans that are on here. Again, if we kind of benchmark this, again, you can kind of see this design with this geometric pump display. Yeah, 2.8 inch, the IPS display. I'm a really big fan of this design right here. But the performance for the fans are quite good. So again, this is going to be 3.8 in terms of the peak static pressure, and then 90 for the CFM. If we just want to kind of do like a little bit of a check here, let's go ahead and do Just because some people, I don't think realize that we spend a lot of time and effort to optimize the performance of the actual fans that we have on our design. I know Snef has actually been one of really the best advocates that I've seen, that when he's actually tried our fans on our builds, he's realized the performance of what we've done within our fan designs, where that's not something that we get kind of like a lot of visibility on, just because people don't think of our fan products first compared to many other manufacturers. But I just kind of want to show you right here, just for reference. This is pretty interesting. So again, the Tough Gaming is in our flagship series. This is going to be in the mid-range series of our product design. But if you compare this to the Unifan SL120, right, which would be a fan that sometimes people say, oh, let me replace this because I want to replace it for some reason. I get sometimes people want to match all the fans in one specific build. Here you can see in my build, I didn't. I kept the Prime AIO fan. I still think it looks fantastic. And then I did our TR120 fans in the rest of the build. But if you take a look right here, you can see that the max CFM, so we have 58.54. You can see here we're at 90 CFM, right? So it's significantly higher. And then, of course, here, 1900 RPM versus the 2600 RPM. And then the static pressure, where I was right. I called it out before. I said it was around like probably 2.5. So 2.54 versus 3.82. So you can definitely note that there's quite a bit of difference in terms of the performance, even from those pre-integrated fans that you get there. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really nice option for those of you that want a really nice looking unit. We will have it in white. We'll have it in black. Really nice performance. Also, the warranty, quite nice on this model. Still 6 years on for the warranty for this unit as well. So that guy will available right now in Canada. Probably coming into the US probably late October or November timeframe or something like that. White version, I don't know when the white version will be coming out. Yeah. And then Snef gives us, yeah, the Tough fans are maybe the best price to performance fans on the market. I agree. I think that our 3-pack fans are a really great option right there for a lot of builders. And as we're now getting ready to kind of wrap up the majority of our stream, I got a couple of last little notes here to kind of go. Some little mini Easter eggs for you guys that I just want to call out. We just finished launching these, but right now we have our TR120 fans. So our TR120 fans, these are really a fantastic, really performant fan that I think look great. Higher than standard number of LEDs within the design. We have them in white, we have them in black, we have a standard design, and we have a reverse design. Really critically, also our reverse performance is almost the same as our standard performance. This is an area not a lot of people realize, that when you go to a reverse-based fan design, you lose a lot of the actual airflow performance and the static pressure performance compared to the standard-based design. We spent a lot of effort to almost match the performance between the reverse design to the standard design. But the I wanted to touch on here is our MR120s. So the MR120s will be our most entry-level fans that we're going to have in terms of kind of price point. And we just finished launching these. So this is going to be the Prime MR120s. Let me go ahead and bring this up here. And I think they're available right now. I think you can actually pick these up right now. Let me go ahead and bring this up here. I don't think we have yet the single pack available yet. But we have the triple pack available in black, and then there should be in white. So we should have the white version and the black version. And there is also going to be a reverse fan version and a standard fan version. So you'll get both. The thing I think I like about these is that you're going to have a really cool, vibrant RGB design. So yeah, you'll see right here is that we actually have a dual lighting design, which I think is really cool and bold and bright. So if you're somebody that really likes the vibe, you can notice here on the TR120s, the TR120s, they actually have a cool design where you can actually rotate the fan, and you can actually go from like one LED strip to like 2 LED strips just by physically fixing the fan. Here we have a little bit kind of a more bold design where you can see you have the inner fan frame hub as opposed to just the RGB being in the actual fan hub. So like the TR120s has the actual RGB in the fan hub here, right? And then it's kind of translucent throughout. Here you have a more contrasted look, which actually I kind of like the contrasted look. They have different vibes to them, right? But you can see you have that really bold pattern on the periphery on the outside. And then you have the lighting wrapping around as well, which looks really good from kind of that side profile. So you get kind of that bold appearance from the center, and you get that bold appearance from the side. And here again, you get the triple pack for $45. So these are 28 millimeters thick. So compared to a lot of the more entry options on the market, which are only 25 millimeter, you get the 28 millimeter thickness. That's going to give you better structural integrity, better performance. 20 RGBs. If you're wondering, a lot of more cheaper items on the market are sometimes 8, 10, or 12 LEDs. So you have just more brightness that's present within there. the dual-sided design that you have present on this model as well. And overall, I think this is going to be a great addition, and kind of just don't sleep on it. I think it's a really nice option. And again, if you see, it's a nice balanced pressure, good amount of CFM in terms of the SCFM. Static pressure is a little bit on that lower side. Again, this is still going to be entirely fine for a lot of kind of standard base builds, but it kind of hits a sweet spot in terms of kind of just giving you good static pressure, good overall airflow. Airflow, I'd say, being a little bit more prioritized than the static pressure. So static pressure being more critical if you really wanted to kind of use it on rads versus kind of more as a chassis type of fan, right? But again, you can have the standard or the reverse. They'll both be 45 for the actual triple pack. Okay. So thanks, Liquid House. Yeah, nice to know that you guys think that that looks nice. I think, again, for the price, if you look at the cost for this, now these are not daisy chain magnetic, but again, to get 3 fans that look like this with, I think, nice build quality, I think this is quite reasonable. Because again, in a normal chassis, you know, especially if you want to go panoramic, you can see right here, I'd have to use 3, I'd have to use 3, and I have to use another one right here. So that's going to be 6, right? So that would be 2 Civic Sacks. That's less than $100 for those 6. And then if I wanted to add in more, right? So sometimes with the other triple packs, just for a triple pack, you're probably looking at sometimes 100, if not more than $100. So you can definitely see you can save quite a bit of money and still get a really nice solid fan for a much lower price right there, right? So it goes, thanks you for the update on the Hero BTF. It's the last piece of my new build, so my wallet is ready. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, man. Thank you, man. Thanks for being Team ROG, man. I wish you the best of luck with your build. Make sure to share it with our PCDIY community. We'd love to be able to have your build there. And moving forward, we will be bringing back the PCDIY Builder Spotlight. So I'll be showcasing builds on a weekly basis, right? We'll try to keep the, the normal term formatting a little bit lower to what we're normally at, but we'll definitely be doing featured builds again. So make sure to submit your build if you want to be able to have it featured here in terms of the PCDIY live stream. I'd love to be able to do that. And then, yeah, those do look amazing. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I'm going to go ahead and drop those in the chat right now. And again, those are available right now if you guys want to check those out right now. So I think that pretty much covers about everything. Let me run through my little list right here that I had that I just wanted to double check on. And again, thank you guys for joining us for the stream. So yeah, we talked about the new XG32UC WMG. It's available right now. You can pick it up at Newegg, right? $10.99. True black gloss design, right? The ROG Strix Ace, also that 610 hertz monitor. We talked about the PA602 Wood Edition Retro Brown chassis, the ROG Crosshair X870E Hero BTF. Oh, that's what I was forgetting. The ROG Thors. There you go. Let's wrap it up with some power supply. And that's actually, this is a good note because there's 2 notes on the power supply side. We will be launching the 1000 watt and the 1200 watt for the ROG Thor. You should be getting them essentially very shortly. And I have confirmed pricing. So for the 1000 watt, let me actually go ahead and just put this in here because give me 1 second. I'll put this in the chat. So all right, so the ROG Thor 1000 watt or 1200 watt, these are platinum models. They also feature the new and exclusive ROG GPU voltage stabilizer design. Keep in mind that for the new version 3, one of the big updates, of course, is the update to the GaN MOSFET technology, right? They're, of course, all ATX 3.1, 10-year warranty, best-in-class acoustics because of the double large heatsink designs that we have within the unit. Then you also have the GPU voltage stabilizer design, which it won't look any different on what you're going to connect to the graphics card. So the graphics card connection is the same, but on the PSU side, there's actually the normal connector that you connect, and then there's 2 extra pins, which are denoted here by this like little purple pink kind of magenta connector, where that will actually have a direct readout from the PSU that helps to provide faster transient response power delivery to the GPU. And this actually helps to uplift performance by a couple of percent. So if you just kind of want the best experience possible, you get this exclusively right now on the ROG Strix new platinum power supplies, and then on the ROG Thor series power supplies. It's not on any other power supplies on the market, and it's not on any of our other power supplies. So keep in mind, if you get a Tough Gaming power supply or a Prime power supply, they don't have that. Only the ROG Strix and the Thor models have that, okay? We also have thicker copper pins actually there, which actually help to reduce resistance and help to improve overall performance as well. So those are cool little hallmarks that are on there. The thicker internal, of course, heat sinks that we have on there. And then I love it for this generation, of course, we have the swappable magnetic design. So you actually have the wattage design that's on both sides. So you can flip the power supply and you can put it on either side, and you could have actually the wattage readout based design. And then of course you still continue to have the ARGB lighting. So the pricing on here is going to be, let me check, give me 1 second. For the 1000, so it's, is that right? Okay. Yeah, 1000 watt is going to be 480, and then the 1200 watt is going to be 500. So $30 difference for 200 more watts. I think I would just get the 1200 watt, right? Although 1000 watt really probably for the majority of people is all they really need. But yes, that is going to be that. Now there is actually design and development for a white based version. I don't have an ETA base for a white based version. If you do have interest in a white version though, I can tell you that we are going to have the RG Strix Platinum in white, which hopefully will be available before the end of the year. This actually model has already launched in Canada. Again, the Canadians are going to be seeing it first before the North Americans. But if you do want a white version, we have now an updated version, which will be the RG Strix Platinum 1000 watt in white. Hopefully this will be available in early Q4 for those of you that are interested in if you want to get a white base option. But if you also want white, keep in mind we already have the Tough Gaming Gold 1000 watt in white, which I think looks absolutely fantastic. So, and that one also has real full, nice, beautiful, fully etched modular cables, great build quality. Even the actual tip connectors are actually white. It's white and then gray, so it looks really nice. Some vendors are weird, like they make the connectors all black and then the cables are white, so you still can kind of really notice it in a white based build. But yeah, you also still get the GaN MOSFET technology and the GPU voltage stabilizers design. So yes, we'll have this model available, like I said, probably before the end of the year if you want to be able to have the white. And then in Canada right now, but North America, like I said, before the end of the year. And then for the Thors, for the 1000 watt and the 1200 watt, hopefully, I think probably by mid to late October, it should be available within the channel. I know this one's been a long time coming. A lot of people have been waiting. I know you can even get them in other regions. Just be aware there's a lot of other factors within the market and elements that we've had to make transitions and adjustments. So this is the reason why some products have been delayed in terms of getting into the North American market. So we are doing our best to try to do everything we can to get these, because we know that there's a lot of people that are excited about seeing these. Okay. So let me quickly just see some questions right here. I love my Thor 3 1200 watt. Yeah, it's a fantastic PSU, right? Sean goes, I have it right now in America. Well, lucky you, man. That's fantastic, right? My favorite pieces are the Azoth. Yeah, the Azoth is a fantastic. I love the Azoth. The Azoth X, which we recently just released. I didn't even talk about it here, but I love the Azoth X. Right now, the 1600 watt don't have a clear updated ETA on it. The 1600 watt is still in the pipeline, of course, in terms of availability, but just because it's a lower demand in terms of people needing really a 1600 watt solution, we're focusing on the 1000 watt and the 1200 watt first for availability. I would expect the 1600 watt maybe at the very end of this calendar year, if not probably the very beginning of 2026. But you should see both the 1000 and the 1200 watt, I think, within early kind of Q4 timeframe. Okay. Would this PSU be future-proof for the new generation GPUs? It's always a hard thing to know, right? Because you don't know what the power envelope is for the next generation GPUs. But the way that I would look at it right now is that even if you build like a 4080 or a 4090, or you had a 5080 or 5090 system, the nominal actually power consumption that you have with those systems is generally somewhere between about 450 to about 650 watts. You have sometimes what are called peak excursion or peak transients swings that, of course, can go higher than that, but the power supplies are designed for essentially those peak swings, which means that maybe like for like a microsecond or two, you might get to like 800 or 900 watts or something like that. But you don't think about that wattage. You think about just the average sustained wattage. So considering right now, if you got 1000 watt, there's no way the next generation is kind of going over kind of that, a large amount of that kind of power envelope perspective for a lot of different reasons. So from that regard, if you commit into like 1,000 or 1,200 watt right now, we know already that the PCIe 12x6 standard is not being changed right now, and that 600 watts is still the peak in terms of what's being done. So you are fully ready for the next generation of graphics cards and fully ready for the next generation of builds. So yes, if you were to get either one of these, you can feel entirely comfortable and fine that you've got more than enough power, even if you overclock or push your system for whatever the next generation CPUs, the next generation motherboards, the next generation graphics cards, or anything you're going to need. You're not going to have any concerns. If anything, I would still tell you, even if you bought one of our ATX 3.1 power supplies that are 850 watt, you would still be fine for the next generation. But you buying into 1,000 or even 1,200 watts, you're just giving yourself even more margin. Yeah, so it's not something that you would have to kind of worry about. Yeah, Stardust, there's no changes to the 12x6 power connection. That requires actually a very long lead time in terms of the PCI SIG Foundation making changes. And those changes have already been run place. And they already made changes between even 3.0 to 3.1 for the extrusion compliance that's changed over. So again, there should be no concern in that regard. And there's no changes to the actual connection right now. So in all respects, you can feel entirely fine in terms of that regard. So you're entirely good. Okay. All right. So overall, guys, yeah, I think that covers everything. I got the monitors, the motherboards, the graphics cards, all those little pieces in there that I wanted to touch on. Yeah. So I think that pretty much covers everything. I'll just touch on it here. Just this will only take a second, but I'll put them in here. But I wanted to kind of just touch on them a little bit outside sometimes the normal use. But as you guys know, I'm always a big fan of some of the specialized products that we have. So I just wanted to touch that. You guys know that we can have these available, and then we will wrap up the stream. Hopefully everybody has a great Friday night. Have a safe and healthy weekend. Enjoy your gaming, whatever it might be, and let me guys know. All right. Maybe I might drop somebody if somebody's maybe wants to do some racing, maybe some Dawn of Wars or something in the PCDIY community. Feel free to kind of hit me up. But let's go ahead and take a look. The last couple items I want to note, we do actually have our new 8-port 2.5 gig and actually dual 10G FSP plus unmanaged switch actually being available in the channel very shortly. This is going to be coming at $150. So if you have maybe the need to be able to upgrade to a multi-gigabit based switch environment and you want 2 SFP 10G ports, this is coming in. So $150 for this guy. I'm very excited about this. I think it's a great addition, especially with so many of our routers now having 2.5 gig and also 10G, although that's kind of one of the benefits. A lot of those new units have gig switches built into them, so you can get units that already have like 4 2.5G ports, or we even have one model that has 8 2.5G ports, and then pretty much all the higher end Wi-Fi 7 units all actually have 10G based networking, which is pretty cool. But again, this is a nice update. Also, if you're aware, we do sell 10G add-in cards available, so we do have those. And then we also now have the availability for this monitor should be inbound very shortly, probably by the end of this month, if not early October. That for those of you, we already had the high resolution at 4K and 5K, and now we have 6K. And 8K is going to be coming before the end of the year. But here, I just want to let you know that the PA32QCV, if you're interested in that 6K Ultra PPI experience, right, this is an absolutely stunning display in terms of the color accuracy and the pixel density. It's a super tack sharp display, fantastic. Really focused for those that are going to be more in the content creation space or advanced productivity. I'm somebody that loves the high resolution experience right here. So I think actually for the price point too, it's an actually awesome value prop. So again, we have now the PA32QCV, which is available. And a little side note, for those of you that want to use Display Widget Center and you're using an Apple-based laptop or maybe like a Mac Mini or a product like that, we have released the OS X version for Display Widget Center. So you now have Display Widget Center available for Windows, and you also have Display Widget Center available for OS X. All right, guys, that wraps up our stream. We've packed in a lot, guys. It's been great to be able to come back, and make sure to keep it tuned for our weekly PCDIY stream moving forward. As always, if you guys have any questions, comments, or feedback, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'll do my best to go ahead and get back to those comments as we can. And like I said, also feel free to go ahead and tag me in the PCDIY community. I'll watch out for feedback, commentary there, and we can look to integrate that into next week's stream as well. So let me see, is any last questions right there that have kind of jumped out? Jay Custom, man, fantastic, man. Justin, thanks for joining us. The Strix Platinum is a great choice as well outside of the Thor 3. I would agree. I think for most people, especially because so many chassis don't have visibility for the Thor 3's OLED display or the RGB lighting, I think the Strix Platinum, you get the outstanding build quality, the heat sinks, the really nice cables, the GPU voltage stabilizer design. So I'm a big fan of going with the Strix Platinum. And actually, for most people, I recommend the Tough Gaming even over the Strix Platinum because, again, you can also get the Tough Gaming model in white, and it's a fantastic option. But I agree with Justin. Strix Platinum, definitely a great choice if you want to go through there. All right. All right, guys. Yeah. Have a great weekend. Take it easy, guys. All right. Bye.